You're listening to The Pete Shepard Show.
And good morning, everybody. How are you today? It is a Wednesday, 9/11. How is everybody doing on this hump day? Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of The Pete Shepard Show here on the Coastal Sports Network. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out on the video platform, following me at PShep326 on X, Twitter. I think we're back on Facebook, as far as I can tell. So we're back there. SR1029thegame.com. Follow us there. Ion TV, CSN Florida, Rumble, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube. And call or text the show 727-858-6650. And don't forget, you can go back and listen to the podcast as well after the show and other shows at rss.com/podcast via RSS. So good morning, everybody. How are you? We're going to do have lots of NFL and college football news for you today, an MLB rundown. Two great guests coming up at 8:30. Finally, Mike Petraglia will join us from Cincinnati. And then the big old Glenn Ordway at 9:30 a.m. And it's only by coincidence, and not that I forget 9/11, 23 years ago, which we'll get in for a second, but it's great that we have Glenn on the air today, not because the Hall of Fame broadcaster from Massachusetts, but also he and I were on the air together during on 9/11 back 23 years ago, which I'll get into more a little bit later on. And it was one of the most incredible days of my life, like everybody else. It just in so many ways, still surreal, still hard to believe it happened 23 years ago. But everybody, please don't forget, don't ever forget. We'll get into that as well. So we'll have the Red Sox report also at 8:15. And lots of NFL, college football news, some more on Tyreek Hill, some more. This interesting video today from Deion Sanders from yesterday as well at Colorado. Miami at Buffalo. We'll preview that a little bit. They play tomorrow night on Thursday. I saw Josh Allen's hand being bandaged, his non-throwing hand bandaged up. He was moving around in practice pretty good, but we'll see. But the Dolphins are favored in that game, by the way. All right, let's get right into it and say good morning to Angel Martinez, executive producer and host extraordinaire. You'll hear him later today. Martinez and Company after this show at 10. Good morning, Angel. How are you?
Good morning, Pete. And yes, you are right. Never forget 9/11. It seems like decades ago, even though it hasn't been that long, at least in our minds, our hearts, and definitely what's been instilled in our brains forever. But I hope, and we all hope as a nation, no matter what you do say, just take a second just to remember those, the fallen, that unfortunately had lives taken away because of people and just the evilness in this world.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, I mean, former military man, and again, thank you for serving your country. I know when it happened, the first instinct everybody goes through, it's not rational, and you understand it. You just want to find out who did it and blow them to smithereens. You want to just fuck them up, whoever they are. But this is when, and as it's going on, and then you try to settle a little bit. You want to gather as much information as possible. But I want to ask you, as a former military man, what were you doing that day? The day it happened, the morning it happened. I don't know if you were in the broadcast business then or whatever, what you were doing. You weren't still in the military, right? In 2001, you were out, right?
No, I was out, and I was actually working for the Hartford at the time. And when I was working at the Hartford, we used to do, and I think a lot of folks know, if you ever have done Toastmasters, and I'm not talking about a piece of toast or cleaning glasses, there's a club that's called Toastmasters, and what it does is you're able to go out in front of people and speak to them, and they'll learn a little about you. You learn a little bit about them, but it also brings you a professional side of you that comes out in case you've never done speaking engagements before. And I was doing an actual speech, and that day, coincidentally, I happened to be in my uniform because
Wow.
I was talking about how when I went for a job interview, I went in a normal suit and I didn't get hired. Went back to the same company with my military uniform on, and I ended up getting hired. And then explained to the person what difference does it make that if I wore my normal business suit compared to my Class A uniform. And you decided in the process of the speech, and it's weird to this day. It's unexplainable either. Is that I like for a second I kind of like felt something, and it was, I don't know if it was just my heart, whatever.
Yeah.
asked someone to turn on the TV, and then that's when we got first wind of what had happened, and then everything just stopped at work as we all went back to the floor. And as we all went back to the floor, obviously the phones were coming to a halt because normally it's the New York offices and all around the world that are calling in. It took a while before it finally got around, but folks from South Carolina were calling us in and asking us for quotes and stuff. And that's when we had to relay back to them, like, listen, in case you haven't realized, the world's under attack at this point. At least the U.S. was. But I remember it clear as day. I also remember being super frustrated. At the time, the floor manager, she came up to me because she knew exactly how I felt. The first thing I wanted to do was go into battle.
Yeah.
I did call my local recruiting office just to let them know exactly where I am, where I stood, and if they needed my services again. But it was just, it's one of those days you're angered. I remember hearing the silence in the air, how silent the U.S. It was so eerie because of the normal traffic that you would hear. You wouldn't hear, like, it just seemed like everything had stopped. And I could not imagine for the state of New York, the city of New York, Manhattan, everything that went on that day. And everybody's just, again, you see stories. I think Netflix had a documentary up not too long ago. And it's, as a service member, it pisses you way off because there were signs, there were things that they knew that was about to happen. And like everything else in this world, things are ignored, not even here in the U.S., but in other countries worldwide. It's always wait and see what happens reaction instead of actually doing something about it. And so till this day, I'm still enraged because it shouldn't have happened, period. We shouldn't have lost over 1,100 people. It just didn't make any sense. But we'd hope that we would learn from 9/11, but I don't know if this government's ever going to learn from 9/11.
We haven't been attacked since. I mean, we had the Boston marathon bombing in 2013. I get, and that we were definitely attacked that day. But as far as 9/11, so far, fingers crossed. It hopefully will never happen like that again. Where I was, I mean, I was prepping for the show, and I remember I had Sports Center on. It was about 9:05. I was doing, with Glenn 2 to 6 on the big show that day, and just prepping for the Patriots and the Jets for that week. And obviously they postponed it, football, that and it was a week later. And that's when Bledsoe got hurt. But that when we're prepping, I'm doing all this stuff, getting ready for the show, about the hot topics of the day. It was mostly football. And all of a sudden I get a call from a friend of mine. He's like, "Are you watching this? Are you watching this?" And I'm typing here, but my TV's over there at the time. And I'm like, "Watching what?" I said, "Stuart Scott. I'm watching. Turn it on." So he's like, "Put it on." He goes, "Get off ESPN." And I looked up, and ESPN was cutting to all this stuff. Then I just switched to local news, and then it was because a lot of it generated out of Boston and Logan Airport. You started to find out all this information, and it just got crazy. So I jump in the shower, and I couldn't call out to anybody. It was happening in 15 minutes, and it wasn't like the fancy iPhones that we have now. I had a cell phone, whatever it was, in 2001, and I couldn't get out. I couldn't call anybody. It was crazy. The person would call me. It called on a landline that I had at the time. So I get in the shower and I jump in the car. I'm trying to call Jason Wolf, my program director. I'm trying to call Glenn. Can't get through to anybody. I just start driving, and I lived about 40 minutes outside of work back then. I lived in a suburb of Boston at the time called Weymouth, Massachusetts, and so I start driving down 3A. I go over the Fore River Bridge reluctantly in Quincy to get to Route 3A. I start going up to Wollaston Beach before 93, which goes right into the city. And I just said, "Fuck it." I turned around and came back home because it was like I don't know what's going on. I wanted to find out. I finally get through to work. I get back home immediately. I finally somehow got through. And my boss said, "Yeah." He goes, "Please come in. We'll have you and Glenn go on probably early." No problem. Get in a car, race as fast as I can to get to the city. And I remember it was so surreal being on 93 North with hardly any traffic going into the city. Now, this is around 11 o'clock in the morning, but the bumper to bumper leaving Boston was absolutely, unbelievable. We were also, so when I go to work at the time, they still are, I believe, WEI and four other radio stations at Entercom at the time. We're in a 5-story building right on the Mass Pike, the New Balance building. Those of you who are from New England, you know exactly where it is. You can't miss it. It's a big 5-story building with the big NB on it, New Balance, and that was their corporate headquarters and all that stuff. So I remember getting on the phone. He's like, Jason's like, okay, get up here. And I said, and what he was talking about, we may be forced to evacuate because they don't want any tall buildings in Boston being occupied right now because it was still everything was going on. This is after, the second tower had already collapsed. So finally, get there. Glenn gets there, and we go on the air probably earlier than normal. And it was just so surreal. And we're thinking at any moment that we're going to have to evacuate. We're monitoring everything that we possibly can. Just trying to give out information, trying to calm people down. Obviously, people were very upset, and I had friends that worked in these other buildings, in the Prudential building right down the street. About that. I had people that I knew at Mass General as well, and you're wondering what's going on over there. All these crazy thoughts are going through your head about what was going to be targeted. And Glenn was so good that day. I learned so much that day. It was probably the most important broadcast day of my life, and is to sit there with him and the way he handled it is something I'll never forget. It was unbelievable how calm and professional he was. And in the beginning, I didn't go crazy like you think I would, but through my mind, I'm like, we got to find out who these fuckers are. I don't care, and just blast them. But got to get the information. But let's try to piece stuff together, what we know, not what we don't know. And basically, I started giving. I remember the Solicitor General was one of the first quote unquote big names to pass away, and I remember giving him that information. We were talking about it. I think we were the only two on for like 5 or 6 hours, but it was just an absolute surreal experience. And of course, outside in Boston, we were 5 miles outside the city from Logan. You have all the jets are going by, and military planes are going by, and MetLife, helicopters are going by. But every time you heard something, you cringed. And we could look out our window partially over the Mass Pike, it was, you just didn't know what was going on. Everybody, it was trying to gather as much information locally and nationally, and because a lot of the attacks originated out of Logan, it was trying to pinpoint that, and then on top of that, from a sports angle, we have our friends Angel coming back from New York because the Red Sox and Yankees had just completed a 3 or 4 game set in the Bronx, and we had our friends. Steve Buckley's been on the show, Sean McAdam, and others. All our friends, and we're the flagship of the Red Sox. They're flying back during this, which was just, that's another story. That's their recollection, is amazing. It's not that long of a flight from Boston to New York. It's about 90 minutes from LaGuardia. Their stories are unbelievable. So I'm glad to have Glenn on today. I asked him on Monday. It just didn't even occur to me that 9/11 was Wednesday. It would have occurred to me on Tuesday. But when you start booking guests, and I get all involved in the show and trying to adhere to everybody's schedule. I book all the guests because Angel does enough behind the scenes. So I try to get the whole week done on Monday, so we're not scrapping along. Monday was easy, like I said, because we just wanted to recap what happened in college and NFL. But I'm so glad that I got Glenn to come on today, because I'm sure he's going to have some great thoughts. And I'll tell you, it was an honor to be on with him that day. It really was. It was handled. The way he handled it was, he could have been doing network stuff, and it wouldn't have gotten any better. It was really something. It really was. And we got through it. And we didn't do sports for about, I'd say 10 days to 2 weeks. It was some stuff was kind of sprinkled in, but not a lot. It wasn't a lot, but we had some unbelievable shows. Our producers, Brett and Andy, and Jason Wolf, our program director, and everything. I'm telling you, there were news stations not only in our building but outside, our competitors and everything else. And I can tell you, man, we did as good a job on WEI that day as anybody. That for those 2 weeks, it was really, really impressive. The people that we had on, the co-hosts that we had on, the guests that we had on, from military people to people from Logan, people who were working behind the scenes. It really, really was surreal. The whole thing was incredible. And I tell you, it was some of the, besides raising all that money for the Jimmy Fund Radio Telethon that we did every year in August, usually around $5 million, those 2 weeks of my life were probably the most important in my broadcast career. I probably learned, so much, and I had already been in the business for a while, but obviously none of us had gone through that. So it's something that I will never forget. But Angel, before we get back into some more thoughts for you, I thought I would play this. I tweeted it out this morning. I'll play it at the end of the show as well. This is the commercial from Budweiser. It only aired one time, 23 years ago. I can't remember what time it aired, but it only aired one time because they didn't want to make any profit off of it. One time this spot aired across every station in America at some point. So here it is. Wow. Still gets me. And still gets me. I watch it once a year. Most incredible thing, the greatest spot, if you want to call it that, ever produced. But man, that is, if you don't get emotional watching that, that is just whoever the marketing person was who came up with that, and the way it was shot, the way it was filmed. I wouldn't change anything. It was absolutely perfect. The music in the background, the Clydesdales, just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. So, and I'll play it again at the end of the show before we sign off, in case some of you missed it. But that's something, Angel. I mean, I don't know how you can't watch that and not get emotional.
Are you kidding me? You start getting teary-eyed. Just
Yeah.
because you remember everything that happened that day, all the people who lost their lives for a senseless purpose. Period. So when people think there are certain things in this world that are not important, everything in this world is important. Everything. That's why there's a lot of things, and we never get political on the show, but every 4 years, you guys got to remember the people you put in place to make sure they're always looking out for the best interest in this country. So that's that's hard. It's a really good commercial by Budweiser. It really wrapped up a lot of things, and for a lot of families, obviously, they're never going to forget as they go back down to Manhattan today and take that moment for when both towers went down. So it's again every condolence possible to all the families, the first responders, the people who lost their lives because of just a senseless act that people just want to spread terror around the world. So God bless the folks that lost their lives and the families who continue on for them here on 9/11.
Yep. Yeah, well said. Well said. So, alrighty. So now we're not going to forget. We are going to move on. We are going to move on. And I wanted to go from, I want everybody to see that because I know a lot of people, and maybe some of you weren't even alive when that happened. I mean, we have a lot of some younger audience as well. And that spot, again, only aired one time. They only aired it once on that day. Or when it aired. I forget the day it aired, but they were the only one time because Budweiser didn't want to make a profit off of it. The sad part was not too long after that, they stopped doing the Clydesdales Christmas commercials, which were always my favorite. Like when those started in November, do, 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 and you have the Clydesdales marching down some beautiful homey street with the snow and everything. And for some reason, they stopped doing it. I still don't understand why, but anyway. Don't ever forget what happened on 9/11. It's one of those. I wasn't alive for the Kennedy assassination, but this is other than sports stuff where I remember where I was. This was the most important, and this is something I will always remember. That entire day, I can picture hour by hour in my head from start to finish. Where I was from about 8:30 in the morning until late at night, where nobody got any sleep because everybody was up throughout the middle of the night. Like I said, because of there was so much information coming out of Boston and Logan where it originated, and a lot of it originated. It was obviously it was coordinated attack with. Everybody knows the story, but it was especially it was difficult for a lot of us New Englanders because it's because we were one of the places where it originated from out of Logan, and security's never been is changed dramatically since that day. I think for the better overall. Overall, I think for the better. Jerry says, "Good morning, Pete. You guys were phenomenal that day. It was by far the best broadcast of the event of the radio." Well, thank you. I mean, there were a lot of people that were really good. I can't. Jerry says such a sad and horrible day. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But I thank you for that. Like I said, I learned more from the Big O that day than ever, and the way we put our shows together afterwards. I was never more proud to be part of any organization than I was. Can't say enough about the entire staff. John Dennis, Jerry Callahan, John Meter Perel, who'll be with us tomorrow. Dale Arnold. I think it was Eddie Endelman or Bob Newman. I can't even remember. Then our show, and then I think Mikey Adams was doing the nighttime show back then. I believe it was him, or it might have been Ted Sarandis. I can't remember, but it was really something. The whole station, Jason Wolf, our program director, it really, really. I think we did everybody proud the way we handled it, and of course, you had those back then. It was like that with every station, every sports station. I know FAN went through it, IP went through it. Other sports stations around the country. Well, after a couple of days, people were starting to say, like, "Can we get back?" Some it was a minority of people.
Right.
Can we get back into sports? We want a deflection from all this. And I'm like, we were like, how you can't deflect from it. You just can't. This is something really, really important. So we stuck with it. We did a lot of we sprinkled them a little bit of sports after about a week, but we had tremendous guests on from all facets, from the military, like I said, all over the place. They were all very informative and very, very good. And it was an honor to be part of that crew for those couple of weeks. It really was. Jerry says, "I remember it well. All of you guys did such a tremendous job on the radio the day after that tragic day." Yeah, and during too. I mean, a lot of the traffic was so bad getting out of the city. A lot of people, I mean, because of cell phones and stuff like that. I think what we did, if I remember correctly, I think after Glenn and I got off I think we got on early and did like noon to 6. Normally we did 2 to 6. We got on early and did 12 to 6. And I think after that, we switched to national ABC program. I forget whatever network we were carrying at the time. Who the hell remembers 23 years ago, that part. So we carried the national network because it was easier to get people that information, more information as possible. But it's something I will never forget. I will never forget. All right. Your thought, if you have any thoughts on where you were on 9/11, you want to share, I understand. That's fine. We are going to do some sports today, I promise. When we come back, we'll start with that. I actually have a fun little segment that I think Angel will appreciate as well. Fun little video to play coming up. I'm not even going to tell him. I'll just surprise him with it. But he might become orgasmic when he sees it. So that's what we're going from one extreme to the next. All right. We will continue in just a few minutes. A short break, as I said, coming up later today, 8:30. Finally, Mike Petrali is going to join us. God damn it. Finally going to join us after a couple of postponements. None of them his fault, by the way. I just like to bust his chops. And then at 9:30, so Mike's coming up at 8:30 live from Cincinnati. At 9:30, the big old Glenn Ordway will join me right here, and we'll reminisce about a lot of things. I know he has some thoughts on Tom Brady inaugural, his first game as a color analyst. As I said yesterday, he was under a lot of restrictions a lot of people didn't know about. But we'll get into all of that. And, of course, we'll talk about 9/11 again with Big O, us being on the air together that day. Some 23 years ago. We'll get into NFL news as well. Buffalo getting ready to host Miami. College football news. All part of the Pete Shepard Show coming up today on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Andersen windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Andersen windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jimmy the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak from Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it Gardenia. It's pronounced Jardiniere.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable.
But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Don't spaz out because your team lost. Let Pete do it for you. Now, back to the Pete Shepherd Show.
And welcome back to the Pete Shepherd Show here. It is a Hump Day Wednesday, but we are remembering 9/11 23 years ago. Anybody wants to chime in with any type of story of where you were and what was going on? I know anybody who was alive and was probably only over the age of like 8 or 9 years old probably remembers exactly where they were. We just went through it about where I was, where Angel was, what happened that day, and your thoughts as well. Whatever you'd like. Follow us on the video platform here on the Coastal Sports Network, on Twitter X at PShep326, Facebook. Yes, we're back on Facebook. It is confirmed, finally. We're off Facebook probation, for whatever that reason was. Not just us, a lot of people around the country. SR1029thegame.com, Ion TV, CSN Florida, Rumble, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube. Call or text 727-858-6650. All right, Angel, here's something for you. I want to scroll 4 down on my Twitter page. 4th story down, went after McAfee and Aaron Rodgers, which we'll get to. This is a cool video of a Philadelphia Eagles superfan. Now, I've seen some unbelievable man caves in my life. Man caves, as Sebastian Maniscalco used to say or said before. He's like, we had a man cave. He goes, we had a man cave too. It was called the house. That's what I would say. But anyway, people, a lot of guys and girls, they love the man caves. This one is pretty exceptional, I must say. Even for Eagles fans, this is I've seen stuff close to this. This is one of the best man caves, quote unquote, I've ever seen. We'll let the video run for you here. Very dramatic down the stairs. Gotta have the treadmill. Arcade machine. Lots of space. Bar area.
how much money you just spend there, but jeez.
Yeah, well, sometimes you build it up a little at a time. The only thing I don't get is the treadmill in front of that huge screen TV. And I know he has, I believe, in front of the treadmill, straight ahead. I think he had another TV because you're not gonna look at the TV like this while you know, the big screen TV.
No, but it was a what you call it, a projector screen.
Oh, was that? I couldn't tell from me. Was that okay? So easy enough. But that was pretty impressive. Angel.
Holy moly, that is pretty freaking good. You'd imagine. I mean, it's not. He has some space down there, but I can imagine. I could just imagine our fans down there at that house. The neighbors next door. Hopefully, they're Eagles fans too, because I'm pretty sure they get pretty loud in that basement.
Oh, I'm sure you get called over. I mean, my buddy Ron had an awesome, one of his houses had an awesome man cave. It was incredible. We had a hot dog machine and a popcorn machine down there too, which is pretty cool. Full bar in one area, and then in the other area, part two, was where the just gigantic movie theater type television with movie theater seats we had 6 movie theater seats in the man cave. Drink holders and everything. They reclined and everything else. Can't tell you how many times I just stay over because I didn't want to drive back and just stay over and just fall asleep in those chairs, just watching football and whatever we wanted to watch. It was crazy.
By the way, guest from Guy earlier said, "Good morning, fellas. Hope everybody has a great day. We're always remembering 9/11. May God bless all the families and everybody. Don't forget to vote." And then he just watched the video. So he's, man, that place is huge. It's nice. But yeah, it's freaking... Listen, by the way, Floridians, what's a basement? You guys have heard a commercial like that before?
Oh, yeah.
For those who live up north, northeast, that was the actual bottom part below the household in the foundation. So that's the places that us as children, as families, that's where we had parties and get-togethers, and that's where you played.
Now there's basements, and then there's finished basements.
Oh, there you go. That's true.
Which is basically the origin of the man cave. A finished basement back then was more like maybe the kids would go down and play, or a ping pong table. I know when I was growing up in Warwick, Rhode Island, one of my first houses before we moved to Narragansett, where we had no basement. Sometimes the basement was the extension of the garage, where you just store a lot of shit, a lot of useless stuff that you'd bring up during the spring or whatever. But I remember it wasn't finished at this house that we had in Warwick, but it was all concrete on the bottom. But my sister and I would go down and roller skate. It was pretty big. We'd have to avoid some of the poles, the foundation poles. But I would set up a hockey net and stuff, and I was playing at the time. And, when all our friends would come in, and we'd have like little mini roller skating parties down there at times. We didn't have couches down. There was no furniture at that particular house. But other friends of mine had finished basements where there was carpeted and you had couches and the TV. It was a place for parents to get rid of their kids if it was raining, you couldn't be outside.
Yep.
Because trust me, when we were growing up, you were outside. I was like, get out. And for me, it wasn't an issue because like I said, I played baseball morning, noon, and night. That's all I cared about was playing baseball. Unless it was snowing, it's all I wanted to do. With as many of my friends that would come over every day, I didn't care. But she didn't have to tell us. But then, sometimes it can be really, really hot outside. And you want to do something. Then we were members of this club, so we went to this pool all the time, too. That was pretty cool. And we got to take our friends as guests a lot of times. But I can tell you, there was parents on Saturdays and Sundays on the whole. On Saturdays, you got the hell out of it. It wasn't even, your parents would just say, get out, go outside and play, do something. Just stay out of the house. You're not going to sit in front of the TV all day.
No,
that kind of thing. It wasn't an issue for us. And we'd be out on Saturdays, morning, noon, and night. And then my dad always cooked steaks on the grill on Saturday. That was always a thing. And we'd have friends come over and play badminton afterwards outside in the backyard, or volleyball or something like that. After playing baseball all day, we were constantly outside.
I tell you that we were the only time, and it was funny because on the weekends, depending on which parent was available. Now, I want to say most of the time, like every parent was available. The moms, the dads, some as well. But for the moms who were available, so if, let's say if last week my mom was responsible for like lunch, and not for like everybody, but she fed everybody. So it's Then everybody would come over to the house. You get a sandwich, whatever she made, you had for lunch. And then, of course, eventually everybody went home for dinner. And then if you got lucky, what time dinner was, you were able to go back outside again.
Back up. Boom.
Yep.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's when we played volleyball and badminton and kick the can. Whatever games involved, stickball. Yeah. Actually, where I live, we didn't play a lot of stickball. We played because we just all played baseball. But kickball, kick the can, kickball. You just made up stuff. So that was it. Your friends would come back over like a little bit before 7, especially during daylight savings time for those who have it or remember it.
Yep.
And then you'd hang out until 9 o'clock or so, and you'd get eaten alive by bugs, and nobody cared.
Yep, that was the other one.
And you just go back in and you'd sleep in on Sundays. I wasn't one of those kids that slept till noon. Some of these kids, it's like Saturdays and Sundays come around. It's like they sleep all day. Once you're up at like 8 o'clock. I was a kid. Even on Saturdays, first of all, I was up before 8 because 8 o'clock was Super Friends, and I wasn't missing Super Friends at 8 o'clock. And then after that, all bets are off. All bets are off. I remember junior high. So I remember having basketball practice on Saturday. We practiced 6 days a week. So we had practice from 8 to 10 on Saturdays. So that was mandatory. And but yeah, so it was me, Super Friends, and then start calling before I moved to the beach, down to the beach area of Rhode Island. It was Super Friends and start calling my friends. Hey, let's get it done. Let's see we're going to be 3-on-3 today. We're going to be 4-on-4, and we would play baseball all day.
Yep,
Yep, all day. And it was a blast. I wouldn't trade. We were really like the Sandlot. That's how it was with us. It was very, very. That's why that movie is so near and dear to me, because that's how it was for me growing up.
Yeah, because everybody, if you were new to the neighborhood and if you played baseball, guaranteed you're in. I don't care, what walk you came from.
Yeah.
All you had to do is just show up at the field and you were in. We didn't care. You could have 15 guys out there in the field. No one cared because it was the best time of our lives.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, what I was so lucky, the field was my house. We had a really big front yard, and we had chicken wire up. I had a bat rack. My parents my dad especially was really cool of what we were allowed. What we did, and there were some brown spots on the lawn. For all the home plate bases were at first. Although third base, I remember third base at the house was a boulder. And it was tilted like this. So it was great because there was no stealing when we played or anything like that. Even pass balls if something got by somebody. But the third base rock was shaped like this. And it was great. Yeah, we just had a ball. And we kept track of, I had a stat sheet. We kept track of home runs and doubles and stuff. And it was like, what teams were playing with who, even if it was 2-on-2 or 4-on-4. We kept track of everything. It was crazy. And it was like absolute competition beyond belief. Beyond belief. It was so much fun. So much fun. Anyway, let's get back to some video here, Angel, as we, nice stroll down memory lane there. If we could, it's about the third one down. Let's start with Pat McAfee show yesterday, Aaron Rodgers and company, and they appreciate Greeny Ride as a diehard Jet fan. Disappointed again. Last place Jets, by the way. I meant last place Jets. Yep.
Did you see that Greeny had your jersey and get up, you remember, framed? And I don't know if we got to sign one to him yet or not, or we're going to. It got taken down this morning. Somebody went in there, broke it, and took it down and put a Brock Purdy one up. Greeny got dunked on this morning on Get Up.
Who killed somebody?
I don't know. He said, I'm not joking. I am ready to take somebody's head off.
So mad.
I'm ready to snap a neck. That's what he said.
Well, that's what I appreciate about Greeny is he's ride or die. He's jumped on the bandwagon a long time ago. He's not trying to get off after 1 week. So
look at that.
That's pretty amazing.
Who did this? This is bullshit.
He's so
McAfee?
That is what he said.
Yeah.
Said who
in the hell did this?
Heck, right?
Well, he said heck first, and then he was like, you know what?
I found out.
I'm pissed. Who in the hell did this?
Well, I'm happy. I bet you they found out. That person.
Who do we think did that? Couple
Dano?
ideas.
It's probably Orlovsky. Hembo not in studio right now.
Swagoo, maybe?
We know that.
Saturday. Goo went there early.
Swagoo was not there. Swagoo.
How many farts do you think Dan had on the air today?
So many.
6 at least. Actually, I heard his new thing is he bottles them and then he tries to smell them.
Oh, that's like on documentary.
Awesome.
Documentary Now, Batshit Valley. That reminds me. Have you seen Batshit Valley on Documentary Now?
No, I have not.
On Netflix.
No.
Documentary Now is a spoof show.
Mm-hmm.
I love the word about to go. It's a spoof show. Bill Hader on IFC where they make fun of documentaries. This one makes fun of Wild Wild Country, and they used to jar their orgasms to say.
See you tomorrow.
I got it in. I got it in.
That's probably Aaron Rodgers' best moment yet since he's been a Jet. It's pretty funny right there. Now, I remember later on in the afternoon, I was watching, I watch College Football Live every day. I was flipping over to Sports Center too yesterday afternoon, watching Finey's show too. And I believe it was Damian Woody, who played for the Jets for a little bit. But Damian Woody was the one. They found a secret camera, and they saw the camera, and they watched him do it. So I believe it was Damian Woody that pulled the old switcheroo yesterday.
Nice.
Absolutely hysterical. Meanwhile, and I'm trying to get as much video in as possible here. Let's see. If we could, Angel, let's go to this. It's just, when Stephen A. starts talking about college football, I cringe most of the time because all he can usually say is Alabama. I don't think he doesn't watch a lot of college football. It's why they always have Feinbaum on with him or somebody that watches. But from First Take yesterday, far be it from me to defend Notre Dame in any way, shape, or form from a sports standpoint, not from, I respect the school, the institution, and I respect their sports teams. I just hate them. But here's Stephen A. Saying that Notre Dame season is essentially over. We can play this.
But I think because of their 12 teams, I don't think their season is over just yet.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Let's stop this. Come on. Let's stop this, okay? Okay, listen. Their strength of schedule right now ranks 52nd among FBS schools, okay? So you got teams that are, they're classified as mid-tier teams, the Georgia Techs and the Armies of the world. Come on now. You're literally sitting back. We're in September. We're in mid-September, and we're sitting here, and what we're saying? We're saying two things. Number one, they got to run the table. And number two, they got to pray that USC is big time. So the season finale against USC, hopefully they'll elevate to a top 10 team in the nation, top 5 team in the nation, and then Notre Dame beats them. After running the table, by the way, and then they'll make the playoffs. Nah. I mean, when you look at the teams in the Power 4 conferences and what they bring to the table, when you look at the fact that Notre Dame, like Paul just said, listen, the committee, we know this, and put Paul up because I want to see Paul when I'm saying this right here, the mouth of the South. Here's the deal, y'all. We look at Notre Dame. Who did you say they lost to? Marshall? Randy Moss ain't there no more. I know they got that dude that caught that catch like Moss. You understand? But, Randy Moss ain't there no more. So you got Marshall. And who else did they lose to? Who was out of the team, Paul?
Stanford. They lost to Stanford. Which was a bad Stanford team, right? A mediocre Stanford team, Marshall, and now Northern Illinois. Not Illinois to fight in the line now. Oh, no, not them. Northern Illinois. Illinois, really? Come on now. It's got to a point where people are literally asking the question, well, why are they on national television? why they're on national television. I mean, think about it. You're gonna start asking those questions. I mean, you got some alumni members, that are in posh positions in the television world, evidently something along those lines, because nobody can figure out why the hell the Fighting Irish are on national television all the time with their separate national television deal. You can't be losing games like this. Of course, I'm a fan of Marcus Freeman. I like the brother personally. I certainly don't root against him, but the facts are the facts. With a schedule that is suspect, and now it's ranked as the 52nd toughest schedule in the FBS, combined with games like Georgia Tech and Army on the schedule, we got to look at them and say, all right, man, handle your business against Louisville, handle your business against USC. That is your claim to the playoffs? It ain't happening. Hell no. I can't see it. It's over right now in September.
Stephen A., as you 100,000% wrong. Say it like Arthur Fonzarelli, wrong. It just proves once again he has no idea what the hell he's talking about. He doesn't get it. There's a lot that can happen. Georgia Tech lost a heartbreaker in Syracuse the other day. They already beat Florida State. We still don't know what Florida State is going to be. He didn't even mention them. They've played Florida State their fourth to last game of the year on November 9th. Yeah, the USC game is going to be big. You don't know what Georgia Tech is going to be. Louisville, that could end up being a huge game if they keep winning. The strength of schedule stuff is baloney because that can change every week depending on who beats who. And I don't think he's given Northern Illinois enough credit because that team, as I was talking about with Jay Flannelly yesterday, that team could very well win the MAC. And that could be really interesting if Notre Dame does run the table. Or even with 2 losses, there's still a shot that they could get in depending on what happens with everybody else. I don't think that would happen, but there's a shot depending on who they lost to and where it was. But wouldn't it be something if Northern Illinois and Notre Dame played again in the 12-team playoff? But he is so wrong. He's not given enough credit. I guarantee he doesn't know enough about Miami of Ohio, also in the MAC where they play at home. At Purdue, they win at Purdue. That's a good win. You can say what you want. It's an in-state rivalry. Now, home against Stanford, they should win. Home against Georgia Tech, I don't know. I don't know. Georgia Tech is a really good team. Florida State, we don't know what they're going to be. And USC, if they continue to play well, although I think they will stumble along the way. The one thing he's right about is the last game could mean the difference between them making the postseason or not. But to say that it's 100% absolutely over, Stephen A., once again, you are so out of your league when you start talking about this stuff. You just don't follow it closely enough. You just don't. And all that rant you just said for 2 minutes, you should have had Feinbaum come on for at least half of that. And maybe he did afterwards. I didn't see that segment live. Maybe come on afterwards and say, basically, Stephen A., you're full of shit. You're full of shit. But I can tell you this, if Florida State runs the table the rest of the way, they're going to get in. They'll be in. And I'm sure he's crap all over them. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm not saying that's going to happen at all. He's looking at, he doesn't understand how the rankings can change up or down, week to week. If Notre Dame runs the table, they're going to get in. Now, will they? I don't know. Can they? Yes, they can. Will they? I don't know. Still too early. Still have a lot to see from them. This week they're at Purdue, which is going to be a good test. And as far as I don't know why it comes as a surprise to Stephen A. that Notre Dame's on national TV. They get ratings, number one. Number two, NBC has gone out, what I call the Notre Dame Broadcasting Company, has gone out of their way. I mean, obviously they're paying them all these millions of dollars. There's a reason they're making it back in advertisements. They wouldn't keep extending the deals to Notre Dame on NBC if they weren't prospering. And they are. And if Notre Dame's not on NBC, then they're going to be on CBS like they are this week at Purdue, or they're going to be on ESPN or ABC. Every single game in Division I, just about 99.9%, is on some sort of platform. And I know some of you don't want to count ESPN Plus, but I do. There isn't one college football game out there, or 99.9% of them are on ABC, CBS, NBC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ACC Network, SEC Network, CBS Sports Network, Peacock. There isn't a platform out there that you can't find your college football team play every single week. It's just that's just the way it is. They're all available. Just gotta find. You just gotta Sometimes it takes a little. I never thought it was such a big deal to click over from this station to that station just because, quote unquote, I can't find it. I mean, just talking to your remote or look up CBS Sports. ESPN doesn't do this because they only put up. Well, they've been better at it lately, but they usually just put up what is on ESPN. But CBS Sportsline will have every game, the stadium, and every single network that is listed. It doesn't matter if it's ESPN, CBS Sports Network, CBS, NBC. It doesn't matter. So you're always able to find it. Gaspar guy says, Pete, Florida State ain't going to run the table because the U is going to wipe the floor with them. Oh, no, absolutely. No, I'm just making a point that Stephen A. speaking in absolutes. And yes, I do believe Miami. Well, that's not till October 26th. So one game is not. Let's get past Ball State first. 36.5 point. Another team from the MAC, Angel, out of the MAC, Ball State. David Letterman's alma mater coming in to Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday at 3:30, ACC Network. Can't wait for that. That's going to be hopefully they will continue. Cam Ward. They should destroy that team. They should absolutely destroy that team, but we shall see. All right, 1 hour in the books and a couple more to go here on this Hump Day Wednesday, 9/11, as we remember the events from, my goodness, can't believe it, 23 years ago. Unreal. Coming up next hour, Mike Petraglia from Cincinnati, finally at the bottom of the hour at 8:30. And at 9:30, the big old Glenn Ordway is going to join me. Lots to discuss with him. All part of the Pete Shepard Show here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jim and the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak from Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Jardiniere.
Eye on Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Eye on Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Eye on Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The Pete Shepherd Show. It's fun for the whole family, if it's dysfunctional.
Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Pete Shepherd Show here on 9/11, September 11th. And we've been reminiscing a little bit about what happened 23 years ago. I'll do so again with Glenn Ordway coming up at in the 9 o'clock hour at 9:30. Mike Petralli at the bottom of this hour will join me live from Cincinnati. We'll talk more about the Bengals and this past game with the Patriots and coming up, what's coming up ahead. Thanks for checking us out across the Coastal Sports Network video platform. Following me at Twitter X at PShep326. We're back on Facebook. Also on SR1029thegame.com, ION TV, CSN Florida, Rumble, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube. Call or text 727-858-6650. Well, big game coming up this weekend for Colorado, for the Colorado Buffaloes. They're at their rival at Colorado State. Plenty of off-field drama surrounding the Rocky Mountain Showdown, by the way, last year. There were barbed comments from coaches Jay Norvell and Deion Sanders, plus an ugly turn on social media directed at CSU's Henry Blackburn after a hit on Travis Hunter. Meanwhile, I guess there's been some stuff said by the Norvells, maybe even Mrs. Norvell. And if we could go to my Twitter page here and scroll down a little bit to it's in DNVR Buffs, and it is a video of Deion Sanders on the comments made by Coach Norvell's family on social media this offseason.
Coach Norvell's family has made some derogatory comments towards your family.
Yeah.
His wife and his son.
Yeah.
Just curious how you feel about this rivalry and how you feel about your counterpart at Colorado State.
Well, I had the honor and the pleasure at the Big 12 meetings to meet his wife. She's delightful.
Did she apologize?
Excuse me?
Did she apologize?
I'm not looking for an apology. I just met her. She was delightful.
The rest of his family?
I haven't met him. I don't know. I don't judge people based off what they say when they're emotional. I can't do that, man. My heart ain't built like that. But when you show me who you are, I gotta believe you. But I hadn't seen that. I don't know. I just met his wife and she was delightful. Thank you.
Coach Norvell's family has made.
All right, and I'm trying to find exactly. No, I know it was said last year. It got pretty nasty last year, back and forth. I'm trying to find exactly, but that's the one you got to draw the line. You start doing personal attacks on people's families, and that's where I'll side with Dean on that one. And he didn't take the bait. To his credit, he didn't take the bait.
He did. But isn't this the same guy though that now tells any CBS reporter? It has nothing to do with the guys who.
Oh yeah.
So I don't.
It's hypocritical. It's hypocritical. It's no question. It's definitely hypocritical. But this is one. This time, families going after families. It's just stupid. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's just dumb. But we'll see. Wouldn't that be something? I'll be rooting for the Rams of Colorado State. I can promise you that coming up this weekend. Let's see. What else do we got? We got some stuff here on where was it? Oh, I wanted to get back into there was some more sound for the Tyreek Hill situation. We got some new sound for this. If we could go to Total Sports Prep, Angel, and go to where is it? Well, it's under the NFL. It's under it's under
a couple where it says that Tyreek Hill believes.
Yeah, it's a couple. It's under the Buffalo at Miami, which we're going to preview some of the sound.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill. Let's just go to the last few cuts here. Tyreek Hill believes if he was not Tyreek Hill, then the incident would have went down far more differently. That's the third to last cut from the bottom.
And I saw that you said if you weren't Tyreek Hill, that you feared this could have ended a lot differently. What do you think could have happened?
Yeah, so the crazy part about it is I hate talking like this, man, but because I have a kid fan base. But the reality of it is, it's the truth. If I wasn't Tyreek Hill, worst case scenario, we would have had a different article. Tyreek Hill, got shot in front of Hard Rock Stadium, or that's worst case scenario. Or Tyreek Hill, put in handcuffs and taken in and booked, But it's crazy that me and my family had to go through this, so.
All right, that was from CNN, and same thing from CNN. Next cut down, Angel, he explains his "Let's Make a Change" post.
Tyreek, just before you go, you just tweeted a moment ago. You said, "Let's make a change." What did you mean by that?
Right. So, I'm a good old country boy from South Georgia, man. I'm not a big believer in dividing people. I don't believe in all that, man. I believe in bringing people together. Because that's my purpose in life. I do football camps all across the world, man, trying to bring different people together, different kids, different parents, because we in this together, baby. We on this earth together. We got to live together. So when I say let's make a change, let's do it together. So Miami PD, really all officers across the world, man, because one officer doesn't, make the whole group look bad. Everybody has bad apples. Every team has bad apples. It's my job to use my platform and my resources, so that way I'm able to align, with these different stations. So that's what I mean when I say let's make a change. Because we done tried it all. You know what I'm saying? We done protest. We even took a knee. We done did walks. So what's next? So right now, me and my wife, we right now brainstorming on how can we be a part of this change? So it's important to us, because we want to be able to change lives all the way across the world, not just Miami. It's important.
And if we could scroll back up, Angel, to Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, it says that Tyreek Hill is going to meet with leaders to advocate for change. This is on the Le Batard show yesterday.
Ready?
I admire what Tyreek is doing right now, guys. He's in the process of trying to organize a forum discussion with the chief of police of Miami-Dade, anyone else here in South Florida that wants to get involved. Tyreek has said to me, as traumatic as an event as this was, he wants to take this negative and try to turn it into a positive. We talked about all the things that athletes have tried to do over the years, like Colin Kaepernick and others, and to see this type of treatment continue to happen. He's going to take a different tact here and try to meet with some leaders to bring people together to follow the rules, the way that Tyreek said, the rule book, what police are trained to do. That wasn't the case on Sunday. So Tyreek is adamant about being an agent for change, and in talking to the Dolphins, the NFL, Troy Vincent, the senior vice president of the NFL, the Players Coalition, the NFLPA, everyone is behind Tyreek, and there's just a lot of momentum right now to turn this into an example of how we can take a negative and turn it into a positive.
Sure.
All right, and a couple more, Angel, here before we get to the Red Sox report. Let's go to Michael Wilbon right underneath that. Shares his thoughts on the Tyreek Hill incident. This was on Pardon the Interruption yesterday.
Wilbon, what questions does it raise in your mind?
I don't have any questions. I'm old enough, and have lived long enough, and have driven while black long enough. I don't have any questions. The police acted with excessive force. I don't need anybody to tell me to say allegedly. No, we got the video. They reacted in excessive ways from 1 through 10, from A through Z. Having said that, more than one thing can be true. If Tyreek Hill rolls down his window, he might have diminished the chances of that happening. I say might, because when you're driving while black, DWB as we call it, you don't have to provoke police, particularly in certain places, to get dragged out of your car. So he might have gotten dragged out anyway, but he did not attempt to mitigate those circumstances by lowering his window, which goes to a conversation many of us have to have now with our 16-year-old sons about what happens when the police stop you driving while black. So more than one thing can be true, and I think that is absolutely the case here.
What I talked about yesterday, I said, he might have mitigated the incident, might not have escalated, but I believe he still would have got taken out of the car. It's just, let's go to Stephen A. Smith, to the cut below this one. His thoughts on First Take yesterday on Tyreek Hill.
When it comes to Tyreek Hill, we also can't let him completely off the hook based on the statement that was made by the police department in Florida. They said, quote unquote, he was cooperative. He was uncooperative. We have a responsibility on this show, in any kind of platform that we have, to make sure we're doing what we can to save lives, to make sure that we're doing what we can to ensure that somehow, some way, you get to live another day to fight that battle. We know how wrong they are. At least we're exceptional. No excuses. They should be ashamed of themselves, the way they acted. They just went overboard. Totally true. Especially when it came to Calais Campbell as well, who did nothing and put his arms up. He was no threat whatsoever, okay? They told him to step back. He stepped back. He let them know that was his friend. Another teammate, Jonnu Smith, comes in there. He's by his car. He's on the phone. He's clearly not posing any threat. The police officers were definitely agitated. They were wrong. Here's the problem. We all came on the air seeing the initial footage in complete, unadulterated support for Tyreek Hill. Pull over. They tell you to roll down your window. What's the first thing Shannon just talked about? The first thing they do when they pull us over, they pull me over, all my windows are down. My hands on the steering wheel. That is not what Tyreek Hill did. Tyreek Hill had his window up. The officer bangs on, knocks on his window. He didn't bang on his window. He knocked on his window. You hesitated to pull it down. The first thing you say is, don't bang on my window like that. Don't bang on my window like that. Don't bang on my window like that. He asked you for your driver's license. You hesitated to give him your driver's license. You said in the post-game conference, hey, y'all, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? What if you weren't Tyreek Hill? What would have happened to you if somebody that wasn't Tyreek Hill kept the windows rolled up, hesitated to roll it down, didn't give you the license immediately when you asked for it, and then hesitated to get out the car when they told you to get out the car? See, we got to be responsible. And the point that I'm trying to make is this. In no way should the officers be excused for what they did. I totally agree with you, Dom, every syllable. You too, Shannon, every syllable. But I also am saying, yo, Tyreek, yo, bro, you didn't deserve that. I'm not implying that you did. But the police officers do have the power. When they pull up on you, and they tell you to roll down that window, and they tell you to give you your driver's license, and they tell you to get out that car, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything Stephen A. said, despite his thoughts on Notre Dame. But I think he's 100% accurate here. So it's kind of what we talked about yesterday. We're kind of in the same boat. I think that the officers still acted overly aggressively, but you got to roll down the window. And the excuse was, which Stephen A. didn't say, which I heard Tyreek afterwards, is like, if I roll down my window, people start taking pictures of me. You know, they put them on the internet and on social media. Well, that's too bad. That's too bad. But nevertheless, both sides were at fault. I think the police overall, in this particular case, were overly aggressive. But Tyreek should have rolled. That's what I said yesterday. If he just rolled down the window, maybe could have avoided some of this or maybe all of it. I tend not to think so, but that's just me. That's just speculation. Anyway, Angel, if I could have you go to Total Sports Bet Baseball and to the Orioles and the Red Sox. The Red Sox Report now is brought to you by Moynihan Lumber. Check out their complete line of Anderson windows and doors at any of their 3 locations in Beverly and North Reading, Massachusetts, and in Plastow, New Hampshire. Not a bad game last night by the Red Sox. The Orioles snapped their losing streak, but the Orioles won 5-3. Let's get it going, Angel, if you have it. On cut number 3, Cedric Mullins with his first of 2 homers in this game, put Baltimore on top early.
Years ago, so he's made quite a lot out of a career where he wasn't expected for much. Mullins pulls a fastball down the right field line by the pesky pole, and that ball is going to just keep on drifting out of here. Get it in the air down the right field line at Fenway, and you just never know. Cedric Mullins with number 16, a pesky pole poke, puts the O's on top early.
It was a little longer than that, 334 feet. Like I said, if you hit the pesky pole, it's technically 299 feet. They'll tell you at Fenway it's 300, but it went around at 334 feet, right field. And then it is still the toughest right field in baseball. Anybody that's ever played there will tell you that, because it jets out, to 385 or 380 very quickly. But they go up 1-0 there, 334-foot home run by Cedric Mullins. And cut number 2, he added to that. That was in the top of the first. In the top of the third, Mr. Mullins was at it again.
2-1 to Cedric. Henderson at first, and Mullins drives it to right field. This one's hit with even more power. This one's gone as well. 2 home runs in the number 2 spot. And I think Cedric Mullins might just make that his home in the lineup for a little while.
Got the party started there in the first with a home run. That was number 16. And how about a 2-run shot here in the third? So 17 long balls on the year, 3 or more RBIs, make it 50 for Cedric Mullins.
Thanks to Mid-Atlantic Sports Network right there. Cedric Mullins, as you just heard, hit a couple of homers, drove in 3. Albert Suarez gave up 1 run, struck out a career best 8 over 6 innings, and the Orioles held off the Red Sox 5-3 on Tuesday at Fenway. The 2-run singles added by Rushman, and that game they won for only the second time in 6 games as they attempt to catch the Yankees, who also lost to the Kansas City Royals 5-0 on Tuesday. Tristan Casas and Masataka Yoshida each had an RBI double for the Red Sox. They have lost 7 of their last 11 in pursuit of Minnesota for the American League's 3rd wildcard spot. The Red Sox dropped 4 games back to the Twins, who beat the LA Angels 10-5 on Monday. So next up for the Red Sox, You will have Dean Kremer, 7-9, 4.27 ERA, slated to start the finale for the Orioles against the Red Sox right-handed pitcher Nick Pivetta, who's 5-10 with a 4.38 ERA. There is your Red Sox report, brought to you by Moynihan Lumber. Check out their complete line of Anderson windows and doors at any of their 3 locations in Beverly and North Reading, Massachusetts, and in Plastow, New Hampshire. And again, just running down all the scores. Sorry, what?
I want to go ahead, run down the scores and then my thoughts with Stephen A.
Okay, Chicago over the Cubbies over the Dodgers, doubled up 6-3. Cleveland blanked the White Sox 5-0. Pittsburgh over Miami 6-4. Your Philadelphia Phillies, Angel, over Tampa Bay by a score of 9-4. Atlanta routs Washington 12-0. Kansas City, as I said, blanked the Yankees 5-0. Toronto beat the Mets 6-2. Baltimore over Boston, as we talked about, 5-3. The Twins over the Angels, 10-5. Detroit blanked Colorado, 11-0. Milwaukee over San Fran, 3-2. Arizona 6, Texas 0. San Diego over Seattle, 7-3. Orioles, the Oakland A's, I should say, in 12, beat Houston 4-3. Cincinnati blanked St. Louis by a score of 3-0. Okay, Angel, go ahead.
So Stephen A. brought up a lot of good points, and I will agree with a lot of stuff that he ended up saying. The one thing I will say about Miami-Dade, even if, again, my opinion, even if how compliant Tyreek Hill and Tyreek Hill, first of all, when the cop told him to, you know what, no, just get out the car, and then saying that he was hesitant to get out the car, they were already, the one cop was trying to pull the door off the hinges to get him out the car, number one. Number two is they were already amped up. And so whatever, even if, in my opinion, just like you said, that even if he would have had his window down and he would have been compliant, they just, for whatever odd reason, it was in their mind, just, they wanted to do more than what a regular stop would end up being. So, and who knows, I might get into it in my show as well later on, but I just think, to me, it was too much aggressiveness on the cops. And I mean, I got pulled over one morning. This was like when I was back in Philly. I was heading out in the county. This is when I worked out in this county job that I had. And I was coming down this hill. It was 25. I think I was doing 29, whatever it was. And, you know, the cop comes out some side street, whatever. Pulled over is when I had my little Dodge Neon. And I put my 2 front windows down and turned on the light. So he walked up to the car, really polite. He said, "Hey, good morning. How are you?" I said, "I'm fine. Yourself?" He said, "Good." I said, "You know, I just want to let you know that you were coming down the hill. You probably didn't realize that your speed was picking up a little bit. It's, you know, and I know it's 4:30 in the morning, but you're doing 29 and a 25. And I said, "Okay, mind you, there was no other cars in the road."
29 and a 25.
Yeah.
4 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah. So then he says, "Can I ask you why you turn on your light?" And I said, "Well, because my rear windows, I can't put them down, and I'm just doing it for your safety and for mine. But if I would have put my arm back to roll the window down, I don't want you to think I was reaching for something. So I was just doing it for safety." Yeah. And he really didn't know what to say, because it was almost like, huh? Like, usually it's, you know, it's early in the morning, normally would normally do that. So he said, could I just see your license? I said, "Sure." So he looked at it, looked at the address, and the only thing he said to me was, "So how come you're coming to the county this morning?" And I said, "I'm heading off to work. I'm going out to Westchester." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Is this kind of like a shortcut for you?" He goes, "I know a lot of people use this road, but it's rare that people use it this early in the morning." And I said, "Sure, yeah, it's easier because I don't have to cut through where I normally go. So this is a little bit easier." But I didn't realize that I was doing 29 and then 25. But he was very respectful, very cordial. And I goes, "Do you mind? I'm just going to run, make sure everything is fine, and come right back." I said, "Sure." Probably all about 4 minutes, comes right back. Yep. When he handed me my license, the only thing he said was, "Thank you for taking my safety into accountability. I do appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Just be careful out there." And I drove off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the way to handle it. You handled it well. That's, both sides handled it well, which I think happens the majority of the time. I think it happens the majority of the time. All right, Angel, quick break. Mike Petraglia, hopefully, finally, in Cincinnati, you're going to join us when we come back. It is the Pete Shepard Show here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastow, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jimmy the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. And guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement, aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Pete Shepherd Show.
Hey there, welcome back to the Pete Shepherd Show here on a Wednesday. It is 9/11. Mike Petraglia going to be joining us in hopefully in just a few minutes. Rick M says attitude is everything, and those cops came in with attitude. I had a similar issue up by Tallahassee while being pulled over. He came with attitude, and I complied. Still got pulled out of the car. Yeah, I do think, look, there's good and bad stuff everywhere. Like I said, I think the majority of law enforcement handle themselves in a very professional manner. I think that's the case. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it seems to be like, well over 95% of the time. But you can't, there's good and bad in every profession, right? I mean, it is. And you just hope, all you can do is comply. The thing is now, citizens are somewhat protected a little bit more because of the police body cams that are always there. So police, anybody in authority or sheriff and police department, they're all aware of the consequences if they overstep their bounds. I mean, safety first, and I get all of that, but it's all there on video now. There's not a lot you can do in this world. I don't care if you're in law enforcement or not. There is not a lot you can do in this world without getting the video surveillance. There really isn't. All right, Angel, let's try to have a little more fun here if Mike Petraglia decides to join us. If we can scroll down a little bit on Total Sports Prep, and while you're trying to find that, I will say, I'm going to go for it's under Tyreek Hill calls for firing of officer placed on leave, but it's under those cuts. I want to go to the cut on page 2 of that. Coming out of 880 ESPN New York yesterday, Don LaGreca was displeased with the reporter's question into Dexter Lawrence about booing Giants fans, if you see that.
I got to tell you, I still don't like what he said.
10-year patch.
But the stuff that went viral was the last part. I would like to know who asked the question. I mean, come on. Really, it's a football game. A lot of bad things happened. A lot of things that you can ask X's and O's. How do the fans? Come on, if you got nothing, don't ask a question. There's been plenty of times I've been in a locker room in the scrum, Michael,
and you got nothing,
and I didn't ask a question, because I didn't have one. But that to me felt like, well, I got to ask a question. I'm here. I have to ask a question so I can tell everybody that I had a chance to talk to Dexter Lawrence after the game. I can tell my grandchildren, I talked to Dexter Lawrence after the game. But unfortunately, I'm not good at what I do. So I had to ask a question. So what I did is I thought back in my mind and I said, I'll ask about the fans booing. That's a good question, isn't it? No, it's a stupid question. All right? To say, I loved it. I rubbed it on myself. I swear to God, I'm not going to say it. Because there's a lot of guys that I respect. But I got to tell you, I've been covering football for over 20 years. I covered the Jets for 16. I covered the Giants before it. There's a lot of people that are good at what they do, and there's a lot of guys that are bad. There's a lot of people that cover football that have no idea what they're doing. None. Come up with a better. What do you think the fans? Come on, dude. I don't know. What is TMZ showing up to games now? You can't ask a question about football? I'll defend the media to the hilt, but come on, it's a tired question, Michael, and it's a gotcha question because it's probably going to be an uncomfortable answer that'll go viral, and you get the flex your muscles that I asked the question.
So then he did his job.
Well, if that's the job, then you know what? Everybody's right about the media. We're a bunch of pigs.
You think it's unfair? That crowd was booing 3 plays into the game, Don.
It's a lazy
You think
question.
it's unfair question to ask about the boo? You're wrong.
Well,
they were booing 3 plays into the game.
All right, you can disagree. You're wrong. All right, don't talk to me like that, Michael, okay?
Listen, I disagree.
Oh, my God.
Articulated better. I disagree with your premise.
But don't say
the guy 3 plays in, they were booing, and you're not supposed to ask about it?
I'm entitled to my opinion, okay? I'm a little tired of being told you're wrong.
All right, your opinion is wrong. That'll do it for ENN. A very spirited end there to ENN. Brought to you by our friends over at Security Dodge. Shop 24/7 at securitydodge.com during their Ram Power Days event. All right, we'll come back with more of this joy right here on Yes and 880 ESPN.
It sounds like you crumbled up the paper and walked out.
Yeah, come on. I mean, you're that sensitive, Don LaGreca, talk show host in the #1 market, and Glenn and I used to tell each other we're wrong and full of shit. I'd say every segment. We did that for a while.
When we played back, what was the thing?
You're wrong. There's nothing bad. I mean, we always tell each other you're wrong.
What was the thing And Mike's here with us. But what was the Weiner line? We heard when you guys, when you guys used to talk about it.
Oh yeah, that was just that. Dan LaGreca, you got to be a little better than that. That's good for Michael K standing in the crowd. Fucking A, you're wrong. Your opinion's wrong. He's like, we always tell each other we're wrong in this business. It happens all the time, and we cherish it, right? Mike Petraglia, who's joining us. Finally, Mike Petraglia. We've been trying to get a hold of him for a little while. I know he's been busy. Mike Petraglia, of course, from the Jungle Roar podcast, the Code Reds pod host, CLNS Media, so much more. Mike Petraglia, good morning. There's a sunshine coming in the window. It's going to tan half your face before this interview is over. How are you?
We're trying to bring some of Florida up here. How you doing, Pete?
Good. What's the weather like over there?
It's actually going to be really warm today. It's going to be about 87 degrees and pretty humid. The air quality ain't going to be great. So great day for the Bengals to get back on the field and forget about Sunday.
Wait a second. No, doesn't that sun bother you? Do you not have a curtain?
So I have shades here, but the sun is just at the spot where it's coming in through my office window. So I wish I had shades, but I don't.
Now, I don't know if you play survivor pools or any of that stuff.
I do.
So I know a lot of my friends. I don't do survivor pools anymore. I do my one FanDuel 25-cent play every week, and hoping I win the $30,000 or whatever it is. Won $40 last week on 25 cents, so it was pretty good. But how many people had the Bengals in the survivor pool, and how many people are already out of their survivor pool? Are you one of them?
Yes. I
no.
And look, they didn't show up. I think the most troubling thing about what the Bengals exhibited Sunday was no urgency at the start of that game. 3 and outs, and I get it. The Patriots defense is very good. I think that is a very quality defense that Bill Belichick left behind for Gerard Mayo, and they're going to be able to win some games based on their defense alone if they hold teams to under 20 points. I think that's doable for them. But the Bengals showed no urgency, and they looked like a distracted team. They didn't run the right routes. They targeted Jamar Chase 6 times. That's it. They had Chase Brown run the ball 3 times. I think he was targeted in the pass game 3 other times. And so that's 12 targets between Jamar Chase and Chase Brown. That ain't going to get it done.
Well, I know Jamar Chase is complaining about not getting targeted, but don't you have to credit Gonzalez doing a really good job on defense? I mean, I went back and watched.
To a degree.
To a degree. Okay, what do you want? 3 more targets? I mean, that kind of stuff. That to me, that kind of shit gets old really, really fast, especially when a team loses. I think the biggest issue, or one of the more shocking stories of the weekend, besides all the drama that happened pregame, was the Patriots' offensive line, which people were crapping all over, and understandably, I get it. But my whole premise was, let's play a game first. Let's see how Gerard Mayo coaches. Let's see how the offensive line responds. Mike, I couldn't believe how dominant that offensive line was from the get-go. I was stunned, and Jacoby Brissett, you talk about the overrated line of game manager. Well, he was that. Didn't make any mistakes. But the offensive line tracks. You had to be. I was just stunned how they were able to manhandle the Bengals from start to finish in all those long drives.
So Trey Hendrickson was beating his guy every time, but the problem was Jacoby Brissett would step up in the pocket. There was nobody there, and the middle of the Bengals defensive line was not good, and they didn't hold their gaps. There was no gap quality containment and gap responsibility. And when that doesn't happen, you see what happens with a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett. Step up 2 or 3 steps and everything opens up. And a couple of times he just took off because there was nobody there, and that can't happen. And we're going to talk to Lou Anarumo today, the Bengals defensive coordinator. And, he's going to, talk about the yards after contact. The yak yardage for the running backs was huge. Ramondre Stevenson had something like 100 yards. 120 yards after contact.
Yep.
That's unacceptable. And that's what Lou's got to address. The fact that there was no pressure up the middle on Jacoby Brissett, that's got to be addressed. They've got obviously a lot of work to do with Patrick Mahomes on deck this week.
Well, you talk about the distraction. Then I'll get into offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher. But obviously what you went through this week up there with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and the flu at the end of and not to mention all the drama. Now, I know you as a reporter. I've never seen anything like a game one game day where the side stories were outdoing the opening week of the NFL. I've never seen anything like between Tyreek Hill, Dak Prescott, to a degree, Russell Wilson being benched, and Jamar Chase not knowing if he was going to play or not, all that stuff. But was all of that the Bengals stuff, the Jamar Chase stuff, do you think it affected that team? Was it a distraction?
Yes, I do. I think it was a distraction. I don't think players came out as focused as they could have been. Certainly, that showed at the start of that game. They were not focused. And I would throw Joe Burrow into that too. Joe Burrow's still working through his wrist. I think he was able to make all the throws and make them pretty well. He's not back to, I would say, full strength and 100%, but he's close. But I just thought that Burrow missed looks that he routinely makes. The final drive of the game, Pete, Jamar Chase beats Gonzalez on an out pattern, and he's open. And you throw it to him, and it's an easy first down. It'd be about 20, 25-yard gain down the left side, maybe more. And Burrow didn't even look his way. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, he's right there he's your number one receiver. He's the first look. And Burrow said after the game, I missed him. There's no question about that. But Burrow doesn't normally miss something obvious like that at the end of the game when you need a touchdown.
Well, the thing is, Mike, I think, Troy Aikman brought it up before in the Monday night pregame stuff, and Peyton Manning certainly did during the ManningCast. And it's not just Joey Burrow. We saw a lot of that too with Aaron Rodgers and other quarterbacks. And we saw how bad a lot of the quarterback play was because only 33 touchdowns were scored, passing touchdowns, as opposed to like 62 last year after week one. But Peyton Manning said, we need reps. You got to play in the preseason. You got to have more.
Yes.
And I think it's an ongoing problem in the NFL because now it takes Joey Burrow and others. And this is like the third year in a row, right? The Bengals kind of started off a little shaky offense, but it's because these guys don't play in the preseason. So I just think that all these coaches and GMs have to take a look at this and start saying we need to play a little bit more so it doesn't take up to week 4 of the regular season.
Here's the problem with that, Pete.
Yep.
Their owners are saying we're investing how much money in these players?
I hear you. Mm-hmm.
We're not exposing them in games that don't matter and getting them injured in a full contact sport. Not going to happen. And that's your issue. And the coaches are like, okay, just understand you're going to get a dog crap product in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. And the Bengals are one of those teams where they need time. They haven't had tackling. Most of those starters have not had tackling or practice.
Great point.
Situations since last year. And yes, you can tackle a little bit in thud, not bring the guy to the ground, which is kind of important if you're finishing a tackle in a regular season game. You can thud a guy, but you can't bring him to the ground. And, a lot of these teams have those rules in place so that players don't get unnecessarily injured in practice and in the preseason. The starters, for the most part, don't play.
Well, now the Patriots are home to Seattle this week, and the Patriots. They averaged 13.9 points a game last year. They're already up to 16 this year, and they play that way. They're going to have to score more points eventually. I get it. When you have Mr. Hooper from Sesame Street lead your team in catches with 2 for 31 yards, I mean that has to get better. Seattle coming across to play New England in a 1 o'clock game. They usually don't do well in those type of games, but you just don't know what you're going to get out of New England. I think it's going to be an ugly type of game again. But for your Cincinnati Bengals, you go to the 4:25 game this week at Kansas City against the defending Super Bowl champions. Like the fact that they get to play Kansas City after that sort of semi debacle they threw up against the Patriots, or would you rather seen?
No, I like it's going to wake them up. There'll be no sleepwalking at the start of the game on Sunday. I think the combination of the Bengals being pissed off and disgusted, which they better be, they better be. What's the word I want to look for here? They better be sufficiently pissed off about what they did and threw up on themselves on Sunday. That combination with the fact that they have a 2-time defending Super Bowl champion on deck on Sunday in Arrowhead, that should wake them up. I think they're not going to come out flat again. I think they're going to play with a lot more intensity. I think there'll be more urgency to the offense this week against the Chiefs. And this is going to sound odd. I think it's a better defense for the Bengals to play this week than last week. I'm telling you, that Patriot defense is no joke. And they were well coached up, and they have a lot of playmakers. And obviously the Chiefs have Chris Jones in the middle or all over the defensive line.
Yeah.
But I think there are plays to be made against that Chiefs defense. And I think we saw the Ravens make some big plays on the perimeter. I think those plays are there to be had. Again, I don't know if the Bengals are going to have T. Higgins at their disposal. That hurts them. Not having T. Higgins is a huge problem for this offense.
What about offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher? I mean, sometimes, as you said, if Burrow's just not seeing guys who are wide open, what's the offensive coordinator supposed to do except go through the tape and say, "Hey, Joey,
correct.
Guys are open." But were you happy with the play calling that he had, or is it just lack of execution?
Pete. I mean,
that's what I mean. I'm just asking about. We always react after one game.
I think Dan Pitcher, more to the point, knows Joe Burrow. He has a relationship with him over the last several years. Burrow trusts Dan Pitcher. He knows Pitcher is a very, very bright guy who knows the offense. And I think Pitcher eventually this season is going to do things differently than Brian Callahan did. And then he's going to, he presents the plays to Zach Taylor. And Zach Taylor is the play caller, Pete. That's the guy who calls the offensive plays. So, it's up to Zach Taylor, Dan Pitcher, and Joe Burrow to all get on the same page about how they want to attack a defense. I just don't think during that game on Sunday they made many adjustments at all. And I don't care who you're playing. If you don't make the right adjustments against a team that is shutting you down, you're going to lose. And it's almost like they just waved the white flag and said, "Oh, well, it's week 1. We just don't have it. Move on to week 2. And that's what I think, Pete, a lot of Bengal fans are pissed off about. The idea that you spent this money on Joe Burrow, you'd have a ticked off Jamar Chase, who I think is eventually going to get his money here. I can't say that.
That was my next question. If this continues to fester, is it going to still become a distraction for this team, especially if he doesn't get now? Is Joey going to feel pressure this week to throw him 12 attempts? 12.
They're going to throw him the ball more because I think they'll get more looks schemed in for Jamar Chase. The money is a situation where they were close. My understanding is they had the AAV or the APY at just about $40 million. That's not the issue. They had the signing bonus, just about $36 million. Those two issues were pretty much hammered out. The huge sticking point is how the rest of the guaranteed money gets dispersed to Jamar Chase. Does Jamar get the rest of it like Justin Jefferson in year number 2? And the Bengals are like, we don't have that kind of cash on hand. We don't have the kind of cash to put in escrow to guarantee that money in the second year of the contract. It's a cash flow issue. And Jamar's like, I don't care. Justin got his. How come I'm not getting mine? And that's the sticking point.
Are you headed to Kansas City this week by chance?
I am. I will be there doing the tomahawk chop and shouting from the rooftop. That is one of the highest press boxes in the NFL. It is. You're literally, if they get a cloudy day, you're touching the clouds.
Yeah, I haven't been in that stadium. Dying to get there. I was just at the Swamp a couple of weeks ago for the Miami beatdown of Florida, which was great. But you, I don't know if she's going to be there. But my next question to you if she is there, I know
will not be.
You got to get to her. You got to get to her.
She was there last year. She was there last year and sat right in front of Taylor Swift and the whole family box where Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's mom was. They were literally, I think, 2 rows right in front and could look back and see him.
Well, you need to get a selfie with him. There's no something like
that. I'm good on the T Swifty drama.
What? And what the hell was I going to ask you? The besides that and having to deal with all that, but what's been you talk about the money and everything else. What's the tax situation like in Ohio?
Favorable. I mean, it's average. I want to say 6%. 6% sales tax, or 6.5%, maybe it's up to now. I don't know the income tax rate, but it's average. It's not zero. Like I think New Hampshire's 0, right, Pete?
New Hampshire, Florida, Texas, income tax.
Florida, Texas, right.
A couple of other places. But the other thing is, what's been? You cover the Patriots. You've been on talk radio. You understand. Has it been as bad at Cincinnati this week? Like we suck and we suck and you suck and he sucks and we all suck and we suck and he suck.
Yes, it has been that bad. Fans are really pissed. Yeah, and I think that's because they've been sold a bill of goods, and I think the bill of goods are still good. I think the bill of goods are still legit, but you get that kind of effort in week 1. In this particular town with no Super Bowls in the trophy case, no Vince's in the trophy case, the alarm bells go off immediately. And here's the thing in Cincinnati. In the previous 2 Super Bowls that they went to in 81 and 88, they immediately fell off. They became average to very poor teams. And the fear here is, here we go again. We get to the Super Bowl 56. We get back to the AFC Championship, which no shame in that. They lost. Absolutely no shame in that. Then Burrow gets hurt, takes a hit he probably shouldn't have taken. And Burrow has been injury prone over his first couple of years. And now you start off after a 9-8 season, still a winning season, but you start off after a 9-8 season with Jamar Chase drama and lose a game to a team you had no business losing to, the alarm bells go off.
Mike, just wanted to ask you one more thing. Reminisce a little bit with me about 23 years ago, 9/11. I can't remember. I was on the air with Glenn, and he's coming on with me at the bottom of the hour. But I forget, the Red Sox were playing. A lot of it originated out of Boston, as we all know. Red Sox were coming back from a trip. A lot of the media from the Bronx. I didn't know if you were covering. If you were there. So tell me where you were and what was going on in your mind when that happened.
It was about, I want to say 8:15, 8:30, and I was driving up. I had just crossed the George Washington Bridge, and because I was staying with my sister in Manhattan, and I went up. Across the George Washington Bridge, was making my way up 95 and then to the Merritt. And I was, I think, just north of Stamford, Connecticut, listening to the Howard Stern show and heard Robin Quivers make the announcement that a plane hit the building, one of the towers. And I immediately thought, well, it must have been some type of Piper, single wing aircraft, the building, and God, but terrible accident. But those things happen. And as details came out, that they were trying to sift through what had happened, and then the second plane hit, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's no single wing Piper aircraft hitting the building. 2 jet airliners had crashed into the towers. And I remember listening and being stunned for the entire drive from Stamford, Connecticut, all the way back to Boston. And then getting with my daughter, Janie, who was, I think we just adopted her.
She was a little bitty thing.
A couple of months earlier.
Yeah.
And spending time with her and hugging her. And I just remember that was a very, very surreal day. And watching everything unfold in the living room in Lincoln, Massachusetts, it was, I don't know, it's hard to believe 23 years ago. This morning that happened. But I do remember not only, you hear the cliche, do you remember where you were when it happened? I remember everything about the day and pretty much everything about the rest of the week. We all encamped in our homes, didn't go anywhere for the most part. And things were just frozen in time. But obviously an incredibly solemn day to remember the tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people who were directly impacted that morning.
And I forget how old, and you're such a great dad too with your daughters, and they've gone on they're phenomenal. I've seen the pictures and the graduations, and they're brilliant, and they're going to be running some giant corporation someday.
I'm
But how
you
old
on social media program, platform, so you're not going to be able to do that much longer.
how old was Janie when that happened, and did she understand? How'd you have to explain
No,
that to her?
she was only, I want to say 17 months old.
7 months old. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember. Yeah.
So she was, an infant, but just being with her kind of provided some solace to me on that morning, because you as a parent, obviously you go into a very protective mode, and that's kind of how I felt that morning. I wanted to just be around Janie and protect her.
And the only thing, and the only person I knew who personally got was one of the victims of this was former Bruin Ace Bailey, who I know covering the Bruins and everything else, and he was the one name for us in the sports world that came up. He was the only one that we know. I think he was trying to get back to Los Angeles, correct? I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, all right, Michael. Thank you so much, Trags. All right, what do you want to plug? What's going on with you? I'm sure. I know media thrives in situations like this. I mean, it gets old after. I mean, like if this continued for not just the Bengals, for any team, you can only say you suck and you stink and you should go away and not
then
for so
fans
long.
point out, and then where are you? Because I will tell you, Pete, if the Bengals really do go south, and there's a chance it could spiral, that will last for about 4 to 5 weeks, and then people will say people here in Cincinnati will check out. They just won't. They'll find other things to do, other things to get interested in. College football, Ohio State again is wagon, and they'll throw their support behind following Ohio State. That's what will happen. And you hope that doesn't happen. I think the Bengals are still a very, very good team with good coaches and the ability to figure it out. And the fact that the Bengals have figured it out in the last 2 years, and they know what the first month is about in the National Football League now. It's about figuring things out. I think it's way too early to panic. And I think we'll see a better performance this Sunday in Kansas City. Don't know if it'll be a win, but I think they will be a much more representative product on the field.
Final thing. So how many people went to the Bearcat, that debacle at the end of the game against Pittsburgh and the Bengals game? I mean, talk about a double whammy for Cincinnati fans.
That was an ugly weekend of football. At 27-6, I thought the Bearcats had the bag. And then, they just couldn't contain the Pittsburgh running back.
You're right. I was watching because it was unbelievable. And I was thinking of him. I was like, I wonder if Mike has to cover both of these guys.
I did. Desmond Reed is who they could not contain for Pittsburgh. Sorry about that, Pete.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But follow me on the X at Trags. Follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/@JungleRoarPod. And, of course, follow all of my online content at CLNSCincy.com.
Awesome, Mike. Thanks so much. All the best, and we'll talk again soon. Good luck to your Bengals this week in Kansas City. Say hi to Taylor for all of us, and try to get that selfie. I want to see you get called up on stage someday. If she happens to play in Cincinnati and she calls up, Mike, can Michael P. please come up and join me?
I will politely decline.
No, you won't. All right, buddy. Take care. All the best.
All right, Pete. Be good.
Take care. All right, Angel, quick break and we'll get back on track. Mike Petraglia live from Cincinnati. Oh, God. Covering the Bearcats and the Bengals at back-to-back day. Oh, God. What a 24-hour span that was. Jesus. Unbelievable. All right, Angel, quick break. When we come back, we'll reset, get ready. Glenn Orban coming up the Big O at the bottom of the hour as well. All part of the Pete Shepherd Show right here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Chicken and Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. And guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it Gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Okay, men. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Don't spaz out because your team lost. Let Pete do it for you. Now, back to the Pete Shepherd Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 3 of the Pete Shepherd Show here. It is 9/11. We have been reminiscing on and off about that, especially early on in the show, and do so again a little bit at the bottom of the hour with the big old Glenn Ordway, who's going to join me. We'll also talk about a lot of things in the NFL. Tom Brady's debut, not so impressive debut as a color analyst, but as I found out yesterday, he had a lot of restrictions placed on him because of his trying to be a minority owner in the Raiders. Got a lot of other color analysts. They had a lot more advantages, let's put it that way. Not to take all, not that he doesn't deserve criticism, but when you look at extenuating circumstances that he had to go through, you kind of understand why a little bit, especially the part about him not being able to criticize the referees, otherwise he gets in trouble. So all that stuff, we'll talk about that with Big O at the bottom of the hour. Angel Martinez, you the man. How you doing so far today?
Good. Other than watching stuff that's popping up from the first thing that happened last night for those who follow at 9:00 at night. But the stuff that's popping up friggin' everywhere, it's some of it's actually hilarious. And some other stuff's like, oh boy, you guys are in for a wild ride till November. But good. Other than that, and there was something. Oh, I tried to. So I looked at the thing with the Deion Sanders and I guess the Norvell family.
Yeah,
it looks like I think it's the wife who basically called. I think it was Shedeur Sanders like a
yeah.
boomer.
Oh really?
Yeah. I will say Deion did the right thing by taking the high road, but it was kind of like in reference also to like some game or something. I don't know.
It was something from last. It was a carryover from what happened last year. There's a lot of bad. There's always been bad blood between those two teams. Obviously, big in-state rivalry, but it's like a lot. See, this is where when it gets personal, and if you're not talking about X's and O's and specific plays, and it starts to get personal. Like this is now with Colorado State and the Norvells, it seems to be getting a little overly personal for my taste. But
there's some things you just got to let go and not even worry about it. It's like, all right, you know what? I made an error in judgment and freaking let it go. But sometimes if you're gonna keep harping on the same stuff, it's absolutely insane. But again, everybody to each his own.
Getting back to the political stuff real quick, even though we don't get political, my buddy Jim, this sums it all up. He's a non-political guy like me, so this is a rip on both. He's so unbelievably unable to rein in his dumb vanity and bury himself in his own nonsense. She's a disingenuous smug and an extension of the worst president of my lifetime. So, I mean, it's just hysterical.
It is.
I didn't watch 1 second of it. I refuse. Because what am I going to do? I'm going to get. I think people watch it for the comedy of it, for the ABC. The conspirators. ABC didn't do this. It was unfair. Trump calling for ABC to lose their license, and they should all go to jail. But it's just they didn't treat Harris the same way as Trump with the questions and the fact checking and all that stuff. I'm sure a lot of it's true. And the truth's usually somewhere in between. But no matter what happens, all these debates, especially the last 12 years, there's always such controversy. This person, the journalistic integrity stinks. That's why I don't watch.
Now, on a flip side here, as I was looking for that one thing with the Norvells, this came across. I thought this was kind of funny.
Okay.
So the caption on the bottom said, "What did he think was going to happen?"
Well, again, it's just stupid silliness, and I guess people want to spend $5,000 to get out of whatever sports jail they're in. Hey, Andrew, can we scroll down on my Twitter page? The Greeny and Aaron Rodgers jersey saga continues on Get Up earlier this morning. So if we could play that video, it's just the third one down. Underneath me.
Yep.
Right there. I was on Mikey Adams' podcast yesterday, so he retweeted it out. It was a lot of fun.
Purdy's jersey was there already. Go ahead. Brandon has one job to do today and one job only, and that is that the Aaron jersey will be returned to its rightful place. Thank goodness. By the way, the 49ers apparently saw this, and they liked it. The 49ers, they tweeted at us yesterday. Look, the 49ers said it looks good to us. We love the place. So, I mean, like, all I can say is I'm going to be fine. Okay. But if they lose Sunday, I want everybody fired. Literally, everybody. Except for. No, starting with Brandon. I know, I want Brandon fired. And then I want Aaron to be the player coach like Tree Rollins. Yes, sir. Okay, where are we? Coming up. Purdy's jersey was there already.
Go ahead, Brandon. It wasn't Damian Woody, but I think that was one of the producers that actually switched the jerseys yesterday. So good stuff. I want to play another video for you. It's right underneath that. Yesterday, Jason Tatum was on CBS Good Morning, CBS Mornings, I should say. And he's got a book coming out called Baby Dunks a Lot. And it was really cool. It's obviously for kids. And, you know, his son Deuce, everybody knows Deuce. And he had, it was about men and women playing basketball and everything else. But then he was asked a question about, you know, can the Celtics run it back?
Can the Boston Celtics run it back? I'm not trying to give anybody else no bulletin board material. Right. But what do you think?
Well, first, it was extremely tough to win the championship, right? And I was super proud of, you know, what we were able to accomplish. To come into the next season and just say we're going to do it again would be like insensitive. I think that a lot has to go right. And our mindset is not, let's win the championship again. Let's start over. Let's get better every single day and not skip any steps. And that's why we were successful last season.
Can the Boston Celtics?
All right, there you go. That's the right answer.
Yep,
that's the right answer. No one's going to hand you anything, especially Porzingis is going to be out probably till around Christmas time. So they're going to have a big target on their back and everything else. It should be a lot of fun with the Celtics, the 76ers, the Knicks, and Milwaukee. It should be a really, really fun start to the season. Practice, by the way, begins in a couple of weeks. If I could, Angel, impose upon you to go back to Total Sports Prep. And by the way, I do want to say that for the best articles and audio, there's only one source that provides everything you need 365 days a year to satisfy your sports crave. It's Total Sports Prep. The staff combs through the best articles and audio so you don't have to. Sports and non-sports kicker stories will leave you laughing all day long. To get your free trial of Total Sports Prep, contact them at info@sportsbroadcastingcoach.com. That's info@sportsbroadcastingcoach.com. Total Sports Prep, the name says it all. If we could go down again and sticking with the down after the headlines with Tyreek Hill calling for the firing of the officer, can we scroll down to cut number on the page 2? Chris Jones shares his Chris Collinsworth impression on the Manning cast the other night, on Monday night.
All right, Chris, I know you're not just a great football player, but you're also a bit of an impressionist. So specifically, I've heard you do a great Chris Collinsworth impression. So I want to hear it on this upcoming play. Give us your best Chris Collinsworth impression.
Chris Collinsworth. Guys, we coming up on 2nd and long right now. And the 49ers have the ball. From my perspective, it's 13 and 32. Okay? We're talking about a team that's so resilient in these areas. Aaron Rodgers is out of the game. So I'm guessing they're going to run the ball and run the clock out.
Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. And down below that one is the Vegas Raider of Max Crosby on players traveling and having a great time in Vegas. It's from NFL Radio.
These players who go out of town after a game on days off, and they're flying around the country. And I'm not picking on anybody in particular, but obviously Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and Patrick Mahomes and Brittany. Everybody's having a good time at the U.S. Open. I guess to the victor go the spoils. They're champions, and they won the game on Thursday night by that toenail. But what about these guys that you see? I'm sure a lot of them come to Vegas in between a victory and a day off.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but I have seen other people in Vegas before.
Come on, throw them under the bus. It's your show. Why not?
Yeah. No, but honestly, like, me personally, I would never do that. Like, me and Rachel, even in the off season, like my wife, we hardly travel because of our training schedule. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in Vegas training all year round. So, yeah, I don't know how guys do it, but I guess, you know, whatever it is, whatever works for them, works for them. You know, I'm not going to sit here and judge the Chiefs. I mean, they won 3 Super Bowls. So who am I to say, you know, what are they doing? Why aren't they? Until we beat them, you know what I mean? It's free game. So, yeah, me personally, though, I could never, you know what I mean? I feel like every detail matters, and flying and putting extra mileage on your legs, things like that, it can affect your performance. So, yeah, that's not me.
Interesting. All right, Angel, if we could scroll up to cut number 2 on page 1 there. Micah Parsons. Now, mind you, Dak Prescott just became the highest paid player in the history of the NFL, right? But Micah Parsons, great linebacker for Dallas, thinks that is Saquon Barkley is going to take home Offensive Player of the Year. This is from The Edge. Micah Parsons.
Saquon Barkley adding to this Eagle offense, I think, was better than a lot of people ever imagined. Now, for granted, they had some great running backs come through there. Sorry, my apologies. They had some great running backs come through there, right? They had Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift. Now they just added Saquon. Each all of them went Pro Bowl, All-Pro. So I already expected Saquon to do that. But I think Saquon has a chance to be Offensive Player of the Year in this new offense. I mean, receiving touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, over 100 total all-purpose yards. It looked very dynamic, and he looked very explosive. He looked very back to normal Saquon. I tweeted that the Giants should be under investigation. You know why? Because how do you let this explosive weapon go to an NFC rival? Now, for granted, I get it. You paid Daniel Jones, whatever. This is like a brand new Saquon. It looked like he got a breath of fresh air. And no offense, sometimes you do need a breath of fresh air out of organization. Sometimes organization really don't want you to succeed and things like that. And I'm not saying that happened. In business happens like that. But this is like a whole new, brand new Saquon. He looked great.
Yeah, he did, and I'm telling you, I think it's one of the reasons why the Eagles absolutely are going to win the division. I think he's got a big chip on his shoulder, as you would think, and why not playing in the same division as all the crap he's had to take the last couple of years from some, not everybody, because he was clearly the best player on the Giants, not Daniel Jones. But that's going to be good, and it's good for you Eagles fans out there like you, Angel Martinez. So. But interesting that Micah would say that on the Cowboys, not his own player, Dak Prescott, Offensive Player of the Year, but the enemy now, Saquon Barkley. I thought it was kind of interesting.
It was. I think so too, because in Dallas fans, I'm pretty sure are going to have something to say about it. But he's right. At least in my opinion, that he's right. So, the one time I'll agree with Micah Parsons away from the field, but I mean, he's not a bad dude. So I don't. That stuff doesn't bother me, but I just like that he just made the Cowboys fans butthurt.
And finally, Angel, before we go to break, and then the big old Glenn Orwood will join us, I want to play that cut again from right there underneath Max Crosby of Don LaGreca. In case you missed this, I played this about 45 minutes ago. This is from 880 ESPN New York. Don LaGreca gets in a fight with Michael Kay about booing Giants fans and a question that was asked, and this is a really good exchange, but Don LaGreca seems a little panties in a bunch kind of guy. should know better. But anyway.
I still don't like what he said.
10-year, Patrick.
But the stuff that went viral was the last part. I would like to know who asked the question. I mean, come on. Really, it's a football game. A lot of bad things happened. A lot of things that you can ask X's and O's. How if the fans? Come on, if you got nothing, don't ask a question. There's been plenty of times I've been in a locker room in the scrum, Michael,
and you got nothing,
and I didn't ask a question, because I didn't have one. But that to me felt like, well, I got to ask a question. I'm here. I have to ask a question so I can tell everybody that I had a chance to talk to Dexter Lawrence after the game. I can tell my grandchildren, I talked to Dexter Lawrence after the game. But unfortunately, I'm not good at what I do. So I had to ask a question. So what I did is I thought back in my mind and I said, I'll ask about the fans booing. That's a good question, isn't it? No, it's a stupid question. All right? What do you expect the guy to say? Oh, I loved it. I rubbed it on myself. I swear to God, I'm not going to say it. Because there's a lot of guys that I respect. But I got to tell you, I've been covering football for over 20 years. I covered the Jets for 16. I covered the Giants before it. There's a lot of people that are good at what they do, and there's a lot of guys that are bad. There's a lot of people that cover football that have no idea what they're doing. None. Come up with a better. What do you think the fans? Dude, I don't know. What is TMZ showing up to games now? You can't ask a question about football? I'll defend the media to the hilt, but come on, it's a tired question, Michael, and it's a gotcha question because it's probably going to be an uncomfortable answer that'll go viral, and you get the flex your muscles that I asked the question.
So then he did his job.
Well, if that's the job, then you know what? Everybody's right about the media. We're a bunch of pigs.
You think it's unfair? That crowd was booing 3 plays into the game, Don.
It's a lazy
You think
question.
it's unfair question to ask about the boo? You're wrong.
Well,
they were booing 3 plays into the game.
All right, you can disagree. You're wrong. All right, don't talk to me like that, Michael, okay?
Listen, I disagree with you. Articulated better. I disagree with your premise.
But don't say
the guy 3 plays in, they were booing, and you're not supposed to ask about it?
I'm entitled to my opinion, okay? I'm a little tired of being told you're wrong.
All right, your opinion is wrong. A very spirited end there to ENN. By our friends over at Security.Shop 24/7 at Security.com during their Ram Power Days event.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, that's real. All right, then your opinion's wrong. Good comeback by Michael K. Good job for the savvy veteran. All right, quick break. Big O, the Glenn Ordway, going to join me next. Lots to discuss here on this 9/11 here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Chicken and Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our 2nd location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it Gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
On Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, IonTP.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The Pete Shepherd Show. It's fun for the whole family, if it's dysfunctional.
Back here on the Pete Shepherd Show on the Coastal Sports Network. Again, thanks everybody for following us across this extraordinary video platform on Twitter X, following me at PShep326 on Facebook. Yes, we're back. SR1029thegame.com, Ion TV, CSN Florida, Rumble, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube. And joining me, my good friend is way out there in Arizona. The one and only, the Big O, Glenn Ordway. Big O, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Pete. How are you doing? What are you not on now? I mean, why don't you just list all of the platforms that you're not on? Why'd you do that?
Process of elimination. I'm sure I'm sure there's one out there that's foolish enough not to have this show. I can't complain. I can't complain. Hey, Big O, I was talking about our time together. Before we get into Tom Brady and some other sports, I must ask you if we can go back down memory lane a little bit. 23 years ago, on 9/11, when you and I had to go on the air, I think a little bit early after everything that went down, and I was talking about how I learned more from you that day, and I think the shows that we put together after that for about 2 weeks were as good as anything locally, regionally, and nationally. A big credit to you. The way you handled it that day was unbelievable. When everybody was calling in, everybody wanted to blow up the planet, and you were very calm, cool, and collected about how we should handle it, gather information, a lot of things. And I can't tell you, it was a real honor to be on with you that day. Every year when I think about it, I think, God, that was probably the most difficult challenge of my broadcast career. And certainly the 2 weeks how it was handled, particularly by you, because you were in charge and you set up all the shows and everything else. But I wanted to that day, and 23 years later, was that the most challenging day of your broadcast career, being in the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think it was pretty challenging. I mean, Dick, you're right, Pete. So we're accustomed to sitting there and talking about, the fun and games. Okay, so we're not about getting heavy, though I do believe that more and more you're seeing the crossover with sports now and sports talk into politics, because it's all weaved into each other. And that's why you're seeing people like Stephen A. Smith bounce back and forth and others do that. But I had done a little bit of news before I had done sports, because when I started at a small little 500-watt radio station, you had to do everything, okay? So I knew enough about it, and I knew that day that there was no doubt we were not going to sit there and talk about the Patriots. No. So we were going to have to transition and talk about, a major disaster, a major tragedy, a major attack on this country. We were going to have to change the entire course of the show. Now, little did I know that we would have to do it for 2 weeks. And we literally did it for 2 weeks before the audience was ready to now get back to sports. But I'll give you an even better one on what happened during that, because you just mentioned and you correctly portrayed what I said on the air. There were a lot of people that were very angry, that were calling up, that were furious. Yep. And Sports Illustrated did a big, huge piece a couple weeks later on how sports radio across the country handled this. And they did us, and they did Fan, they did Ticket, they did all of the different stations. And in that, they quoted me as saying that I lost control of the broadcast, and that I went out and said that we should go and blow up and turn the Middle East into a parking lot.
Yep.
That was a quote that Sports Illustrated had. Well, I can tell you this. I ended up suing Sports Illustrated because it was damaging to me at the time. Our audience knew it. Our audience knew that I did not say it. And they even, admitted that he never said that. What are you talking about? We furnished all of the tapes of the entire 2 weeks to Sports Illustrated's lawyers, and yet they pursued this lawsuit against me. We weren't trying to get money. We were trying to get a retraction. I finally did get the retraction, Pete, in the very next edition. But the retraction, because the lawyers, I don't know how much money they spent.
Yeah, it was a little blurb.
Little blurb. I got a little blurb. It was hidden in that mail, that mail section that they have up front. Little. Later, I found out from talking to my lawyers that they have spies. Sports Illustrated has spies in each market. And the spy was the one who told them and gave them that quote. Well, I later found out who the spy was. Spy was Ron Borges. Ron Borges.
I remember.
I confronted Borges, and he said to me, well, that's what I thought I heard. And obviously he did not hear that.
It was a caller. A caller said that.
Multiple callers were saying that.
Multiple callers.
Yeah. But you get confused a lot of times from people of saying things that actually your callers say. But it was, in my lifetime, and obviously I wasn't alive for Pearl Harbor, but in my lifetime, and I'm sure in your lifetime, it was the most disastrous day that you could imagine. And I don't think people that lived through it like us will ever forget that tragedy, and we should never forget it, because it can happen again. It can.
Oh no, absolutely. I just think it was all things considered, and how we had to switch gears, and from Jason Wolf to Dennis and Callahan, Meter, us. I can't remember if it was Dale and Newman or Eddie and Dale who were then, and then I think at nighttime after our show, I think we switched to national broadcasting at 6 o'clock because it just was the thing to do. But that whole day, just driving in, trying to get a hold of you, not being able to get, back then we didn't have iPhone stuff. We had flip phones. And none of them, you couldn't get a hold of anybody.
Right.
And I was like, are we doing the show? We're not doing the show. Should I come in? Should I not come? Finally got a hold of Jason. He's like, yeah, come in. And got there. And it was that, of course, we're in the New Balance building. I was telling our audience in the 7 o'clock hour, we're on the third floor, but it's a big building, 5-story building. They're evacuating other buildings within a 5-10 mile radius of Boston that are that high. We're on the mass play, pretty visible. We got military aircraft flying over us every 2 seconds. I mean, it was.
Well, because Boston was
Yes.
not the center, but we were part of it because that's where the planes took off from. So there was a lot of investigative stuff that was going on in Boston. But no, you're right, and people forget those days that the communication was a lot different than what it is today. I mean, I can communicate in a text while we're doing this interview to you if something's going wrong here. Well, in those days, you couldn't get a hold of anybody because you didn't have that wire-to-wire communication. It was exactly how you described it. You needed to get somebody on a home phone,
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's switch gears. Like I said, it was really. I look back on it how not to butter you up even more, but that was you were so good that week, and the guests that we put together, and you did, and Andy and Brett at the time, I think, and we had our shows were as good as any news show, locally, regionally, or nationally. With the people we had on and the information that we got, I thought it was an incredible 2 weeks.
Yeah, I thought we had an unbelievable staff that handled it exceptionally well. And I think people realized that we're working that day. We had no choice. We're not going back to sports. And I remember in the hallways, people saying, well, maybe we'll go back to sports in a couple of days. And I'm rolling my eyes going, this is something that I've never seen in my lifetime. I'm not sure we're going back in a couple of days here. And obviously we didn't, even though sports started to progress and go back to it. It was very difficult, if you remember, sitting there and trying to talk sports without talking about the real world.
Especially during that 2 weeks. That's when, the Patriots had opened up with a horrific loss against Cincinnati. It was right before, take the week off. And then
they got Cincinnati back finally. They got him back, Pete. They got him back.
They got him back. The offensive line that everybody shit all over for 2 months ends up being one of the most talked about stories of the weekend. Before we get into Tom Brady stuff, I got to ask you too. I mean, the pregame on Sunday, I don't ever remember so many stories at once that had nothing to do with the games. Well, technically, Tyreek Hill gets arrested. Dak Prescott signs a contract. Jamar Chase, you don't know what the hell's going on. T. Higgins has got the flu. Russell Wilson's getting benched. I mean, all this happening before the game started. What I thought was unbelievable as somebody in the business, I'm sure you feel the same way too. But I was stunned how the NFL Network was about an hour behind ESPN in the Tyreek Hill story.
I don't know why would that surprise you? I mean, that's the business network. They're the ones that are going to go out of their way to protect the business model, the NFL business model. So instead of just going on the air and going through an editor and saying, okay, what are we doing? Are we covering this? We not. The NFL has to go through how many channels do you think? Maybe all the way up to the commissioner before they can make some of those decisions, I would think. So that might have been the issue. We even had after the Cleveland-Dallas game, we had another sexual assault charge against.
Yeah, just Deshaun Watson. Yeah, what else is new? Right. What else is new?
You're right. It was pretty eventful first week in the National Football League. Yeah, and another one of those games on Peacock that people were bitching about.
Yeah. Well, I get Peacock, so that
I do too.
That doesn't bother me, but anyway. All right, let's get into a little bit about Tom Brady's first game, Dallas and Cleveland. Now, I saw your tweet. I agree with you because I was thinking the same thing. I got the NFL package. The Buccaneers game was being shown locally. We had that on one TV. You had Dallas and Cleveland on the other TV. But I will say this, Big O, and I found Barrett Sports put out a pretty decent article 2 days ago. The fact that Tom Brady is involved in possibly being a minority owner in the Las Vegas Raiders. Right. And I saw all the restrictions that I was not aware of that he cannot be a part of. That had to affect him in some way, shape, or form. And he's also not allowed to any way, shape, or form criticize the officials. So when I take all of that into consideration, that he didn't have privy to pregame stuff and tapes of different teams, he can't access certain players for this, that, and the other reason, because until it's all settled, he's bidding for a minority ownership in the Raiders. Right. He didn't have access to a whole lot of stuff. So I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack. I still think he's going to get better, but that's, he wasn't privy to a lot of information that a lot of the other color analysts were privy to.
You haven't changed a bit. You're sucking up to Tom Brady
No,
again. Here
not
you
at
go.
all.
Yes, you are. Same Tom.
No,
Yep, love Tom. Love you, Tom. Love you. By the way, if your audience should know this, that you would at one point, I think Brady had to take a restraining order out on you because you were just chasing him everywhere he went.
That is not true.
It was a little embarrassing for the rest of us, but it was
not true. I thought it was very offensive, even though it caught on.
He loved you. No, he loved you. Trust me, he loved you. I would love you too if you were saying all those wonderful things about
I just can't. I just
But he forced some. You did. That's right. You did. I take it back. Listen.
By the way, Glenn came up with the name for my post-game show with the Patriots for over a decade with Freddie Smerlis, myself, and then Steve Diassi. But he would call it Pete and the Pom Pom.
Exactly, because that's what you did. We won again. Oh, Tom is great. Tom is wonderful. Oh, we love you, Brady. So I knew all of this stuff going in, that he had some restrictions. And I do, obviously, that's an issue and that's a problem. But, Tom can't do everything. Okay, so Tom's got to make some decisions in his own life here. Does he want to be the owner? Or does he, want to be Chris Collinsworth? What does he want to be? All right. So he's got to make that call, because what he's doing is he's going into a game with his hands tied behind his back. That's what he's doing. And it's his own fault, because he wants to also be part owner of the LA Raiders. So I'm not going to give him,
Vegas Raiders.
Whatever. I'm not going to give him a mulligan on that one, because he's the one that wants to do the ownership routine. Now, looking at the broadcast, the total broadcast, I was a little bit like one of the pom-poms. I was going into this thing. I said two things I said about the two big participants here out of New England, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. People didn't believe me when I said Belichick's going to be very good in the media.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And the reason I know that is you and I did a weekly show with Bill.
Absolutely.
I got to know Bill quite well off the air. And so I knew what the real Bill was like. I knew that coach shit that he did at the podium was to protect his players, and he wasn't going to tell us anything. Okay. But Bill had not only the knowledge, but Bill knew how to convey that, because I had seen that before. So I knew he was going to be good. I also have spent time like you have around Tom Brady and thought personality-wise, there's nobody more genuine in sports, anybody that I've ever dealt with in sports that is more of a genuine human being. When you sit there and have a one-on-one conversation with him, it's like, he knew you forever. And to me, I thought that would translate onto TV. I thought he would be very good. I was very disappointed. I thought he was very stiff. I thought he was nervous. He might have been over-prepared. That might have been part of it. He might have done too much work. And in the broadcast, there's only so much you can say. And I did expect that he and Burkhardt were going to have these moments of, when do I talk? When do I jump in? When do I jump out?
Yeah.
Because it's a difficult thing. TV, you got 8 seconds, get in, get out, make your point. But I was disappointed. I don't think he was willing to go at anybody or even be slightly critical. I can understand the NFL with the referees. How can you not be critical of the Cleveland Browns? The fans were booing it virtually every time out in the second half, Pete. They were god-awful. And this was one of the better defenses in the league last year, and their defense was pathetic. Dallas was just ripping them apart. He gave you none of that. So, and the other thing that I noticed, and maybe you noticed this, I never noticed it before when it came to him, is when I don't see his face, his voice is shallow. His voice is high-pitched. And when he gets excited, he's a little screechy. You know what I mean? I never expected that. And
I agree. I thought he had, and he hit on the Micah Parsons thing pretty good.
He did.
And the interception.
Did you see his post-game interview with him, though?
Oh, I know.
So he gives this the Tom Brady Player of the Week, and boy, they spent an awful lot of money on that football. Looks like it's silver or gold or whatever. And he's supposed to ask him, I believe, 3 questions. So the first one, I understand it. Congratulations, phenomenal performance. You were great. How did you do it? Okay, boom. Second question should have been, what did you guys see? What did you break down?
Exactly.
Instead, he repeated himself because Parsons said to him, well, I listened to the things that you told me during the offseason. Well, you're no longer that friendly player, Tom. You're the broadcaster. You're supposed to ask 2 more questions here of the guy that you're giving the player of the game to. This is not, a suck-up club where we just sit here and rave about the guy for 4 minutes. And that was disappointing too. But I think he's got it in him, Pete. I'm not saying that he's not going to get better. He will, but for $375 million? Wow.
But here's the thing, though, with Fox, and knowing maybe what a lot of us didn't know about the restrictions he was going to have because of possibly being a minority owner with the Raiders, not being able to all right, you still want to give him all that money, but why put him on the number 1 team when it should have been Greg Olsen?
Because he's Tom Brady.
Yeah, I know that, but are you really? You think?
In negotiations,
maybe the first week he got a little more pub, and Dallas is always going to get ratings anyway on the whole. But after that, I mean, is that really going to make that much of a difference if he's the number 2 color analyst as opposed to the number 1? With Fox, should have they had taken that into consideration that because of the restrictions? Let's just keep him in the number 2 role for now. He'll get plenty of good games. He'll get plenty of exposure. Do you really think he needed to be in that spot on that day?
Well, they should have thought about that. And you're right. That probably would have taken a lot of pressure off of Brady. But what do you think the Brady negotiations were with his agent?
Oh, I'm sure that's why he got all that money. But
right. I'm the number one guy. And here's the worst part about it is, I don't know what you think about Greg Olsen. I like him. I think he's really good. They took a guy off the air that was doing a really good job. Now, if you took a guy and the guy that was there sucked, or he was old and he was at retirement, he was ready to move on, and you want to bring a younger guy in, you might have got away with it. But what do you think the people behind the scenes in Fox? Because I know they're all saying the nice things, and even Scott Hansen and others are saying, wonderful things after they took a little shot because they weren't sure that they could be funny about this yet. I'll guarantee you the people behind the scenes, and you know how it works behind the scenes, they're all sitting there going, oh, my God, they replaced Greg for this? What are we doing? And that is an issue for Tom. It is an issue for Tom. And now, again, you and I know how hard he worked at his football career, and I'm very confident he's going to work very hard at this thing and try to correct it. But I think he's got some stuff in his makeup here and his voice and everything else that I worry about. Tony Romo right out of the gate was terrific. Now, he cheated. He went to practice. He knew exactly all the plays they were going to, they were going to throw out there. And then he went on TV on Sunday and he revealed them all until somebody probably grabbed him by the throat, off the air and basically said, you do that one more time with my team and I'll put you down. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and then what happened? Tony Romo became vanilla Tony Romo, and that's what he's become now. So
I'm not sure what game Brady's doing this week. It might be the Buccaneers and the Lions. We're trying to think of the Fox. I'm looking at the schedule right now. So, he's doing Seattle Patriots, is he not? He's coming back. I think he's doing the Seattle Patriot game this week, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's going to be in Foxborough.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I think it's going to be, but that'll be an interesting game as well. But yeah, so I agree with you. It just. I didn't realize about some of those restrictions.
Oh yeah,
can't say anything about the refs at all. Otherwise,
But if you're Fox, that's a real problem. So if you're Fox and you're paying the guy $375 million, and it's not going to get better because Tom wants to become, in bed with Mark Davis. He wants to be part of that team. So if he's part of that team over the next 10 years. He's going to have those restrictions on him. So we're going to get a real controversial call, Pete. You know what's going to happen. In the 10-year career, there may be hundreds of controversial calls. And he's not going to be able to criticize an official who makes a horrendous call. I don't know about you. I've seen a lot of horrendous calls in the National Football League.
Oh, a lot. And
so he's got to call them.
And or he'll do this. He'll throw it to
Terry McAuliffe. Go ahead, Terry McAuliffe. Whatever. Yeah, go ahead. You do it.
Terry,
and then he'll fist bump him.
Unbelievable. Big old Glenn Overway joining me here on the Pete Shepherd Show on the Coastal Sports Network. So one of the big stories, obviously, on Sunday had to be besides all the drama that happened pregame, which we'll get to a little bit, at least a couple of them between Tyreek Hill and Dak Prescott. But the offensive line of the Patriots, where everybody was crapping all over, including myself a little bit. But I did say in my defense, I said, let's just see what, and people shitting all over Gerard Mayo right out of the gate. I said, let the guy coach one game. Can we see how the offensive line is going to? But I was surprised as all hell, Big O. And I had Mike Petraglia on before you, was at the Cincinnati game as well, covering it. But I was stunned at how the Patriots won that game in the trenches. Not so much on the defensive side of the ball because they're good, but offensively, stunned by those drives.
So I feel awful. I feel awful for my buddy Mike Petraglia for once again covering the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got to wait until week 3 or week 4 before they actually win a game. I mean, shame on Zach Taylor. How is it that you look so unprepared? And this has been going on now for years there.
Yeah.
You know, since he got there. I wouldn't get too carried away about the first game performance by the Patriots. I agree with you. It takes a lot of pressure off of Gerard Mayo. He's following Bill Belichick. It's a very difficult thing to do, to step into his shoes. But I wouldn't get too carried away quite yet. And I feel great for Mayo, and I feel great for the team. Takes a little bit of pressure off. If you look at the so-called grading of the offensive line, it was not real good. And so what ended up happening in this game is Rhamondre Stevenson was the star of the game. Okay, and Brissett did not make any mistakes and didn't turn the ball.
Stepped up in the pocket when he was under pressure.
Right. So Stevenson ran the ball effectively, but most of his yards, came exactly. Okay, so the thing was that if you look at that offensive line, they can't continue to run the ball 39 times a game against these other teams, and they were in the lead for that entire game, so they didn't really need to go to the passing game. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to go to the passing game, and I think that's where you're going to see some breakdowns with that offensive line. A lot of that was just Stevenson himself. Now, I will give you this, Pete. Their defense is very good, and we thought it was going to be very good going into the season. So they're not going to get blown out in a lot of games because their defense is really good, even though two of the best players on that defense are right now, one's out with blood clots in Barmore, and the other one obviously got dealt away.
Yeah.
So, but I think they're going to stay in games. I'm not sure they're going to win a lot of games. Look at that schedule. I'm just not sure. I think people get carried away like we always do when you win a game like that, especially on the road, even though it was Cincinnati, who's terrible at the beginning of the season. You look at it and you say, oh, we're going to readjust. I think 9-8. Oh, maybe 10-7. That may be a little bit over exuberant. And if they lose a couple players on the defensive side of the ball, because right now they're a little bit thin there, it's going to cause even more issues. But it was a great win to come out of the gate, and they have an opportunity in a winnable game at home against Seattle this week. So they can go 2-0.
Seattle, I'll get to that in a second. I just wanted to say, but if you had just told me the stats, if you had just shown me a screenshot of Hooper, 2 catches, 31 yards, no touchdowns, and Thornton, 2 catches, 27 yards, no touchdowns, combined 4.
All after the catch, by the way.
All after the catch.
Those yards.
I would have said, if you just showed me those 2 numbers, I would have said the Patriots lost by 3 touchdowns.
Right. Because what they did, it was all short passing game, anything they threw, and then it was yards after the catch. They were very effective doing that. And I'm not trying to put down Seattle. I think their defense is going to be a challenge for this offense this week, Seattle's defense. Yeah. But this is a very winnable game.
It's a winnable game, and they catch the Seahawks coming across the coast.
Yep. And 1 o'clock Eastern.
Which traditionally they are not bad. They're horrible.
Horrible, yeah.
1 o'clock games on the East Coast. They're the one team. Some other teams handle it better than others. They're, at least traditionally over the years, they have not done well in 1 o'clock games on the East Coast.
Right. And the 12th man doesn't travel well to the East Coast at 1 o'clock games. They just don't do that because you can't drink at night and get up that early for a 10 o'clock game. It means you're going to be up about 4:30.
I saw that you happen to catch Jason Tatum on CBS Mornings promoting his the new
kids book.
Kids book, Baby Dunks a lot. I love it.
Yes, I did.
But he said all the right things. They tried to bait him into about running it back, and I thought he handled it brilliantly. It said all the right things. Like,
well, you run it back by doing it on the court. I mean, you can use it as a great motivational tool. I think that Jaylen Brown could do the same thing. He was omitted from the Olympic team, so he obviously has got a hair up his ass, and he can sit there and stick it right to them. I would watch those and circle those 2 Golden State games because those 2 might be very, very, very interesting.
The last thing I want to ask you, getting back to the NFL, we were watching NFL Countdown on Sunday, and the Tyreek Hill story breaks, and then the video comes out. I thought ESPN, as much as I have a problem with some of the stuff they do in Bristol, but I thought they did a really good job tracking down Drew Rosenhaus early. Jeff Darlington did a great job. But you're over after seeing all the video now, and just from that alone, Big O, what did you think of the whole situation?
So I thought when you look at the beginning of it, okay, you get stopped, you're speeding. The first thing you don't want to do is you don't want to sit there and keep your tinted window up. I don't think you want to do that. So I would say initially, I thought that Hill handled it poorly. It was almost like, I need to get to the game. Just let me go. We're going to give you the ticket or whatever. I think as the thing progressed, obviously the cops got totally out of control and well beyond the bounds of handling law enforcement for a speeding ticket. And apparently it wasn't even 100 miles an hour. That was the first initial thing. They said 100 miles an hour. I don't know that road, Pete, but it didn't look like
I do. It's hard to go 100 miles an hour.
I was going to say it looks it.
Yeah,
it looks it.
Many times.
So I thought they vastly overreacted after this thing. And there are more video out now, including one in which one cop is telling the other cop, do you know who that is? You know, which you do all the time. Do you know who I am? Shepard.
That's
Shepard, yeah. Do you know who I am? So they were passing it along to each other. Do you know who he is? And the one guy who was really aggressive, and I believe he's the one that's been suspended right now or on leave or whatever they call it, he didn't seem to know. And maybe that changed the way they dealt. But even the way they dealt when Campbell showed up and who was it? Juju Smith showed up and other players, they were harsh and aggressive to them. For what reason? They're trying to explain to you, this is a football player on the Miami Dolphins. Give him the ticket. He deserves it. He was speeding. That's the rightful thing to do. But where are we going here? You take him to the ground? And then even the part where they wanted him to sit, and he said, okay, I will sit. They took him over to the curb, and he said, I'll sit. And he says, but I just had surgery or whatever.
On my knee,
and they didn't care. They didn't care. And that, to me, was a little bit harsh. So initially, I think Tyreek Hill was wrong in the way he dealt with it. Sorry, you just give your license, give your reg, and then you open the window and you converse with him. And if you know you're guilty, and he seemed to know he was guilty, take the ticket and you move on. As it progressed on, though, the aggressiveness of the police officers, I thought was outrageous. And I think you're going to see that's the way it's going to be handled, Pete.
Absolutely. Great stuff, Glenn. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot for taking some time out in the dry heat of Arizona, where you are. Still hot as hell over here. 82
It's pretty warm here, but we decided that we wanted to move to these warm climates. So think of December, where you were freezing your ass off, or January in the parking lots in January, because in January we would be in the Foxborough parking lot, right? Freezing our ass off. A little different.
Our meatballs and the condensation freezing, turning the dish over and having it be ice. Yes. Those were the days. Glenn, thanks so much.
Always great to be with you, Petey.
Anything on you want to plug? You doing anything? You just, just hanging out?
I'm going to play golf today. I'm going to play golf today.
Nice.
My golf game's it hasn't improved at all. I thought when I got the hip surgery, I said it'll get better. My hip, it'll be fine. That was the problem with my game. It was my hip. No, the problem with my game is my game.
I just hit. But you know what? You make a couple of putts here and there, a couple of good shots, and it's all good.
And you drink heavily. That's what you do. Yeah, smoke a couple cigars.
Tough for the stuff. That's good too. All right, Big O.
Hi, Petey. Good seeing you, buddy.
All the best. Thank you.
You too.
So much. All right. There it is. The one and only Massachusetts broadcaster, Hall of Famer, Glenn Ordway joining us. And I know I'm a little bit over. Angel Martinez, how you doing? You're coming up with your show today as well. What else is coming up on the network before I let you go?
The Drive with Q will be on later on at 3 to 5. And then later this evening is Talking Hoops with Coach Mack, Coach Johnson, and Ron Briscoe from 8 to 9 p.m. tonight. So that also be on the network. Gasp Guy says, great show. I really enjoyed the show and the guests. So that is what's coming up later on the network.
All righty. Angel, before we go, I wanted to, as we head out, can we play the commercial again that we started the show with this morning, the Budweiser commercial on my Twitter page? It only aired once on this day 23 years ago, and here I am airing it twice because I didn't want to make profit of it, but it's worth repeating. So we're gonna leave you with this again. Please don't ever forget what happened on this day 23 years ago. Never ever forget. I'm Pete. I'm back tomorrow at 7 a.m. We'll talk to you soon. God bless everybody.